Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Matt, I feel like for this week's episode, I should give it like the epic. You should give it like the epic movie announcer voice, just because it's like I feel like it's very fitting for this film this week.
In a world where your shadow fights back.
What on earth was that? Was that? I'm sorry, did I not set you up properly? Because what was that, Matthew?
The shadow strays in the night, in the distance.
Yeah, so something like that, right? Something like that.
I think you should just go ahead and introduce the movie for this week.
Yeah,
that was a good attempt. I'll give you credit.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Thank you. This week, we are reviewing The Shadow Strays, the 2024 Indonesia film. This will be part of our foreign film of the month. I mean, we kind of did a few foreign films over the last few months, I guess. Not like a traditional one that we typically do where we're focusing on one film, but we were reviewing a lot of international films during the Oscar award season. So this is, again, back to form of just like finding one that interests us and then just talking about it. In this case, it is The Shadow Strays, again, the 2024 Indonesia film, which I don't believe we've reviewed an Indonesian film before.
No, this is definitely the first.
Okay. Written and directed by Timu Tajantu. Yeah, I think so. And he also was the writer and director behind the 2018 Netflix film The Night Comes For Us. So obviously has a relationship with Netflix. And fun fact, this was the Night Comes For Us was the first Indonesian film on Netflix. So I guess he was able to pave the way for his style of cinema, and then they liked it so much that 6 years later, is that right?
Yeah, but I think I read that for this one, like between them announcing it and going into production and being released, that it was a very quick turnaround for this film.
Oh, so I wonder what he was doing for the last couple of years. If because I thought you were about to say it was a long turnaround between all that, but
no,
maybe he's working on other stuff.
Let's see. I was doing some, It's helmed by Timo Tjahjanto, Indonesian filmmaker. Visceral action in movies so I guess The Night Comes For Us and a movie called Headshot are very similar vibes than this Shadow Strays, because it's like, that intense choreography and dark storytelling.
Yeah, and this, I was listening to a podcast, and this film was highly recommended to go watch it. So it was been on the list for for the last few months now. It's been on our watch list of movies that we can probably tackle, and this one definitely piqued our interest, specifically for the high octane action that is literally all over this movie.
Yeah, according to my Grok search, production timeline announced in early 2024. The Shadow Strays moved quickly from concept to release, reflecting Netflix's push for bold international action content. Filming wrapped up in mid-2024, with Tjahjanto teasing its arrival on social media. So it wrapped in mid-2024. This film, as you can see by the poster, for those watching, the movie was released in October. So that actually is kind of crazy, just to consider.
Wow.
The fact that it was announced in early 2024, it finished production in mid 2024 to be released by fall of 2024. That is a very, very quick turnaround for production. So that brings an interesting light to when we talk about the review.
Yeah, but also that not only that, but this is a very involved movie, and the movie's
Yes.
also 2.5, almost 2.5 hours long. So the fact that you had a quick turnaround for a long movie, and granted, the good majority of it is was a lot of fighting, but that typically it takes months to
That's what I'm
train
saying.
and get the shots down and get the choreography down, and
For
so that's
this,
really impressive.
especially for this, and then we're definitely gonna get into this when we talk about the review. But I think just for this specific fight choreography that goes on in this film, I think is very. I think just without even talking about the film itself, I think that in itself is impressive. The
Yeah,
fact the
agreed.
quick turnaround and for the amount and like the very meticulous fight scene. I guess meticulous is the word I would like to use.
Hmm.
They're meticulous fight scenes and lengthy fight scenes
Hmm.
that they were able to turn this around. I think is it's an interesting fact when we talk about breaking this film down. We'll get it, which is going to be later on in the show.
Yes, but before we do that, we're going to be talking about some entertainment news. And well, I guess after entertainment news and before our review, we're also going to be talking about Severance Season 2, a show that we've been kind of hinting for a few weeks now. We're just trying to catch up with all the episodes. So we're going to do like a big overview on Severance Season 2, as well as our continuing our coverage on Daredevil Born Again. So we're going to be talking about episode 7. But with that, let's talk into some entertainment news. And the first bout and pretty much the entirety of the entertainment news is going to be revolving around CinemaCon. CinemaCon 2025, the annual gathering of movie theater owners, took place last week in Las Vegas and delivered a couple of big announcements from some of the major movie studios. And I always find this interesting when the studios decide, or which ones decide to kind of announce some big some big news at this. Some studios, like we're not going to mention Disney here at all because all they did was just kind of give out exclusive footage and trailers to the movie theater owners, the attendees at CinemaCon. And so it's not really any news to talk about from them. But other studios, like I remember last year, Paramount decided to just dump a bunch of news at the CinemaCon.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find it interesting when and which studios decide to promote what they want out of this. And all of this to just be like, hey, moviegoers, or not moviegoers, hey, movie owners, we are ensuring you and continuing our good relationship with you to promote these big franchise movies that we want you and we're happy to do. And the only way to experience these big movies is for the theater, and we're doing this for you. It's like, yeah, okay, sure.
Sure you are.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a big gimmick, but also it's almost like a con just for the movie theater owners to feel like that they are getting exclusive content early, or in this case, I believe Universal actually gave them an early preview of the live action How to Train Your Dragon movie.
Mm.
Like they got to see the whole thing. So I think that for me, that would be worth it going if you're able to see new movies early. But like being able to see celebrities come up and say, now here's a first look at our new movie. Thank you for being a movie theater owner and allowing us to talk about blah, blah, blah. And here it is. Like, I don't know. That doesn't intrigue me at all.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I'd like to go to CinemaCon. I want to see all this shit. Like,
No, for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to start with Sony Pictures that kicked off CinemaCon. It was a 3-day event. And the big news that came out of that was Sony Animation officially has given the release date of Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. This one hurt a little bit, Ernesto. It's coming out in theaters June 4th, 2027. Oof. And they also gave us a couple of first looks here. If you're watching us on YouTube or Spotify, you'll see some of the images that they put on their social media channels of kind of a sneak peek of some of the imagery we'll see in the new Spider-Man movie. But we're still more than 2 years away from seeing this. A lot of people speculating it was going to be probably late 26, but yeah, another 2 years. That's for a movie that was supposed to be out a year later after Across the Spider-Verse. Now it got delayed by what? 4 years?
Yeah. My early speculation is that it has to do, like, I wonder if Beyond the Spider-Verse is a hint for Miles to go out of this universe and then maybe cross over into MCU, and then maybe they want it to be post Avengers and post new Spider-Man movie. like to really give Spider-Man Brand New Day its time, give Avenger granted this is separate because this is Sony's animated timeline, but like the speculation that Beyond the Spider-Verse was that's what it was gonna like. What is Beyond the Spider-Verse? Oh, that would be the MCU and the entire other timeline, which we've already explored in the second movie where Spider-Man 2099, played by Oscar Isaac, mentions it in like the beginning of the film. He talks about the mess of the last Spider-Man movie. So I wonder if Brand New Day, after Brand New Day, which is the next announcement we're going to talk about, if they're kind of all like loosely tied together.
Yeah, I mean, with Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, I mean, for it to be kind of plainly obvious that the movie's coming out after Secret Wars.
Yeah. Oh, after
So,
Secret. That's right. So not even Doomsday, after Secret Wars.
because Secret Wars is May of 27, so this will be coming literally a month later, kind of riding off the heels of an if Avengers Secret Wars is going to be a success. And now I even wonder now if that's going to be directly tied that a month later we'll get this movie, or if Secret Wars is as big as Avengers Endgame. I don't think it will be, but say if it is, then will that take away from some of the box office numbers, some of the draw that going into this movie?
No, because then that movie will be out at the same time. But I wonder, because Secret Wars is all the universes coming together in Doom creates Battle World, which is what happens in the comics. So I wonder if this universe is going to be a part of that, and then Beyond the Spider-Verse is almost like a small epilogue, because of whatever the events in there will dictate what's happening in there, even though they have their own storyline. But what if it's like a partial cause into the next step of the story? Like something happens and it's fallout from Secret World's Battle World, whatever the case is going to be, and then that's part of what's happening in Beyond the Spider-Verse, besides all the things that happen in the end of the second movie.
Do you think it would just have nothing to do with, what if it's like no relation whatsoever? They're just like, we are telling our own story, here's our trilogy, no connection whatsoever.
I would be 100% okay with that. I'd be totally fine with that if they had their own original story and there is no connection. It just seems weird that in the previous movies we would even mention it, and in talking about the timeline. So why even write that in if you're not going to have any connection to it whatsoever? You know what I mean? Like, they make a very specific point in that movie to talk about, and then the whole movie's about crossing over different universes, people crossing over.
Yeah,
and then
and with that
character to literally bring up a character from the MCU about them causing problems over there, and it was that's another. So we saw the fallout of Spider-Man No Way Home being mentioned in this movie. But then this movie's coming out right after Avengers. So that, to me, it was safe to say at some point there could be either some point of reference or some sort of it doesn't even have to be a main connection, but it can be some sort of loose connection. Because I would hope that somewhere down the line that the plan is to bring Miles over, because that's very similar to what happened in the comic books. He had his own comic book line in the Ultimate Universe. And then Secret Wars is the event that brought Miles Morales as over into the main continuity 616 timeline. That's literally what happened, because they use Secret Wars as an event to kind of like clean up. Like they use these events as to like clean up and to like redirect the storyline into the way they want it. So you get rid of new characters, you bring characters from the Ultimate Universe, you bring them over into the main universe. So I mean, it would make sense if they use this event to bring Miles Morales over, because that's what happens in the comics.
Yeah, and then with that, going into our next piece of news and kind of continuing this conversation a little bit, is that Sony also announced that Spider-Man 4 will be officially titled Spider-Man Brand New Day and exclusively coming to movie theaters July 31st, 2026. So that is also fast-tracked a brand new live-action Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, presumably with also Zendaya. That has not been confirmed. We know that Sadie Sink is going to be involved somehow in this film. A lot of people are speculating that this is going to be kind of from a lot of more rumors have been coming about lately, especially with the Avengers Doomsday announcements from last week. And if the speculations are true, it feels like that Tom Holland will not be in Avengers Doomsday. He might actually end up being in the post-credit scene of Avengers Doomsday. And then Spider-Man Brand New Day will take place somewhat if it's isolated own story, but with I think the implication that Spider-Man Brand New Day is taking place at the same time as Avengers Doomsday, and then Tom Holland and Spider-Man, whatever takes place in that film, will then have maybe a more prominent or at least appearance in Avengers Secret Wars. Probably a more prominent character in Secret Wars, which again, if we're playing with multiverses, if we're still going around with multiverses in Spider-Man Brand New Day, then to your point, having Miles be involved with it somehow with Avengers Secret Wars and then continuing his story over, well, actually it's hard to say because last time we see Miles, he's trapped in a different universe.
Yes.
So for him to be involved in any way of Avengers Secret Wars seems to be out of where the narrative left off in Across the Spider-Verse. So it would have to, the events of Secret Wars would have to probably be later affected by what happens later, maybe in the movie, if they're trying to tie anything together into Beyond the Spider-Verse. So there's a lot of Spidey action going on within the next 2 years of Marvel.
And not for nothing, because I remember we talked about this with No Way Home because we thought this is, so in the comics, Brand New Day, Amazing Spider-Man 546 follows the One More Day storyline where Peter, and we talked about this last time because we've been talking about Mephisto finally making his like official debut. This is where Peter Parker makes a deal with Mephisto to save Aunt May's life, which if you've seen No Way Home, spoiler alert, Aunt May's, in the flip is that instead of the big death that affects his life being Uncle Ben, it's actually Aunt May. So in the One More Day storyline, he makes a deal with Mephisto to save Aunt May's life at the cost of his marriage to Mary Jane Watson. So this deal erases their relationship from history, resets Peter's life to single, unmasked status, which his identity is once again a secret because in the comics, Civil War, that's part of the reveal of Civil War, is that he reveals himself to the world that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. It introduces a fresh start with new characters, challenges, a back to basics approach to Spider-Man adventures, which is what we see happen at the end of No Way Home, where
nobody knows who he is.
Yeah, because in the film, he asked Doctor Strange to cast a spell to make the world forget that he's Spider-Man, resulting in MJ and Ned losing all their memories of him. It leaves him isolated. So we're kind of already in that. We kind of already started that storyline. Just the flip is Mephisto. Instead of Mephisto doing it, it's Doctor Strange doing it for him.
Mm-hmm.
So the title hints that the movie will explore the fresh start for Holland's Peter, potentially introducing new characters like, Sadie Sink's character and villains like maybe Mr. Negative or Menace, which they're from the Brand New Day era. And it'll kind of add to the emotional fallout of No Way Home. So I'm very excited because we're in this world where Peter nobody knows him. He is his own. He's trying to figure out himself as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And
which
the only difference is Peter and MJ are married, but we already have that arc of where the people who he loved and care about have no idea who he is. So so we can still explore that aspect from the storyline in the comics.
Yeah, I'm also okay with it for him not to be involved with a major, not even involved in Avengers Doomsday whatsoever, and then maybe somehow along the way get back, because he still retains all the memory, just no one else does. So if going into Secret Wars, if he sees this big multiversal threat that's happening, then he will have no choice for himself to kind of step in and be like, who is this guy? It's like, don't worry about it, and then kind of moving along with it. And so yeah, I think, at least outside looking in, it definitely seems like they're prepping to have a lot of great Spider-Man stories coming into the future, as well as hopefully doing a good job of tying it into the larger MCU, which with Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four and then Avengers and then Spider-Man and then Avengers again, like hopefully these are a string of like great Marvel movies that have some rich storytelling attached to it. Yeah. Because the last thing I want is, we're watching all these movies with big hype and then we're just continuously disappointed movie after movie.
Yeah. And my thing is like, I also don't want, in which it seems like, that hopefully it's not this, but Avengers is like a cameo fest. It's like, look at all these characters we got. like I don't like Spider-Man No Way Home was kind of like that, and I don't want that moving forward. Like
Hmm.
we don't need all these unnecessary cameos. And I don't think it will, especially since like the core of that storyline, as we were just talking about, is that nobody knows who he is. So
Yeah.
maybe we won't get a lot of that. But it would be nice for it to be like a fresh start. I mean, Spider-Man has a lot of villains that we can be explored. Like there's so many. I saw some rumor online about Chameleon possibly being the next one, which it would be great because Chameleon can literally be anybody. He can
Yeah.
change his face and be any character who he wants. So for Peter trying to like figure out trust, I think that's a really interesting plot device with that villain being introduced, where he doesn't know who to trust because he's like reset himself to zero, but he has his friends who he knew he can trust in the past. So they're I mean, there's no guarantee if that's who they're introducing, but I mean, I'm just stating like there is a lot of great villains and stories that they can explore with Spider-Man in general.
Yeah, and the fact that it's titled Brand New Day definitely feels like it's continuing what the end of No Way Home implied, which was definitely getting a fresh start. So I'm happy to see that we're still going along there.
Yeah.
Also, again, the logo looks a little bit different. It's not the same logo we're used to. We're
True.
away from the home title, so like definitely feels fresh. And so I'm excited to see what stories they have to tell with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And so far, all these movies have been bangers. And Daniel Destin Cretton, who did Shang-Chi, that was a great movie. I'm sure he's going to do great in this movie as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But with that last piece of news that come out of Sony Pictures at CinemaCon, this was quite interesting. Sony Pictures announced that Sam Mendes, the director of Skyfall, is directing not one, but 4 films centering around each member of the Beatles, and all 4 movies will be released theatrically in April 2028. Paul Mascow, who was in Gladiator 2, is playing Paul McCartney. Joseph Quinn, obviously from Stranger Things season 4 and upcoming Fantastic Four, he's playing Johnny Storm. Will portray George Harrison. Barry Keoghan from Saltburn and what's the other movie? The Banshees of Inisherin and Internals. Will be playing Ringo Starr, and Harris Dickinson will play John Lennon. Where was he from? I know he was in Baby Girl, but he was also in something else as well.
I'm not too familiar with him.
Yeah, he's the one on the far left for those who are watching on YouTube and Spotify. But yeah, he'll be playing John Lennon's. This is the most interesting part about all of this. The multi-part biopic will be titled The Beatles, a 4-film cinematic event, with the official log line stating each man has his own story, but together they are legendaries. Mendes says that it will be the first bingeable theatrical experience and is a chance to understand the 4 more deeply. It's unclear whether that means that the movies will be released all at once or once per week over the course of the month. So, how do you feel about this? He's basically announcing that in 4 years' time, he's going to be releasing 4 movies, all presumably within the same month, following each member and counting it as a like choose your own adventure. Not really one to start first, but all these movies will be available in theaters. Do you think that would confuse people? You think this is an ambitious project? What are your thoughts on this?
It's an ambitious project, but it's like a limited series being released into the theaters.
Pretty much.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do this, and at the very end, like the theaters could capitalize and do like a watch along event where it's all 4 in like they just like one of those all day events where you just sit down and you can watch all 4 all at once.
Yeah, and with that, like, do you think like how long would these movies be? I mean, I would like to think they can't be more than 90 minutes.
I bet each one is like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like
Hey.
I can almost like the Beatles have such a long history, and there's so much to explore with each man. I mean, because he's releasing them at movies, so they're at the very least, they're going to be 90 minutes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and this is
Each.
no different than to your point where you're like, this could be like Apple TV Plus is putting this on. So in this case, it's Sony. So maybe Sony makes a deal with Netflix. And then it's like, this is like a 4-part limited series. That's exactly what it is with each movie. Like you were saying, each part being, an hour to 90 minutes. But instead of that, it's just in the theaters. So like, do you like that?
It's different. So I'm interested to try it, especially with like now. Do you have to watch in a certain order, or does each order give you a different? If you watch each movie in a different order, does it give you a different perspective?
I think that's it.
So I mean, it's interesting. It's just something different. So I'm kind of curious to see how this pans out.
Yeah. Also, stacked cast.
Of
Sam
course.
Mendes is a great director. Like
Yeah.
this shows a lot of promise. I'm not too familiar with the Beatles' history. Obviously, you know some of their popular songs, but I'm not like a big Beatles fan. But this idea definitely has my interest of just kind of going there and just, you know, experiencing these stories in a unique way that is probably a test to see if this will attract people to basically spend the whole day in a movie theater watching what seems like a limited series, but in theaters.
And the
So
theaters excuse me, the Beatles have a big enough draw that,
true.
especially for the older crowd, like this, like, do you have something that the older crowd can come out and really watch and enjoy and stuff like that? So this is like the retired crowd, they could spend all day in the theaters and watch this.
True.
And this is
Very
right,
true.
and this is something that they would watch. So then, like the test is, well, if we give them something, like if they can do it, then everybody else would be down to do it for, because you know people used to go all day and watch all the Marvels movies, like you know when they were like only 22 movies. Can you imagine what the homework would be now? It's like, all right, so for Avengers, you need to watch all of Phase 1, all those whatever 20 something movies, and then all these movies plus all these TV shows, and it's going to be a 3-day event in the theater where you can just come and go as you please. We're going to just play it all in order from start to finish. And you just join in whenever you can. Make sure you take a couple of days off from work. Like it'll be fun.
Yeah, this definitely feels like a good, like maybe just like, again, the same as a limited series. You can probably spend a weekend, maybe pick the 2 you want to watch, and then come back the next day and pick another 2. And you know, but what's kind of sucks is that also like you're probably paying for each individual film as well.
Yeah.
So that's a hefty price tag when you think about it as well. Just call it each movie ticket's like $15 on average, and
like
so now
50,
you're
60 bucks.
walking in with what, $60 just to watch these 4 movies plus, you know, food and whatnot.
Yeah, you're like, so at that point, it's like this is a limited series. So it's not, unless you really want to see it, like unless you're really invested or you have a subscription like we do, like what's going to be the draw? Like you're going to really, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's something you do consecutively, or I don't know. I'm curious to see what they're going to charge and what this is going to look like. I am curious to see what the box office is going to be. And then like, are certain 4 films are going to do better than the other? It's like, well, these 3 are good. Like, it's like this character is like, this one's not as good. It's like, you don't have to watch it. You can just watch the other 3. It's like, that's going to be sad because then you're missing like a fourth of the story.
But it kind of forces you to watch all 4 if you want like the full experience. So I don't know. This could end up being really, this is definitely a bold and unique way to try to get people into the theater. If this works, we can probably see a lot more of this, but if it doesn't, it might just fail really hard. I don't see it failing though, because of the subject matter, because it's the Beatles. But I mean, who knows? This definitely has my interest for sure though.
100%. All right, let's move over to Lionsgate. Now You See Me 3 is officially titled Now You See Me, Now You Don't. I knew you'd like that. It will hit theaters November 14th, 2025. Jesse Eisenberg, Mark Ruffalo, Woody Harrelson, Dave Franco, Ela Fisher, and Morgan Freeman will reprise their roles from the first 2 films, while Ariana Greenblatt and Rosamund Pike will join the cast. It was also announced that a Now You See Me 4 is already in the works, with Ruben Fleischer returning to direct. I'm actually kind of excited. I love this film franchise. I mean, who doesn't love like a good magic trick? I mean, these are just like good, fun movies. Like you don't have, you can turn your brain off and just like have a good time. So I'm totally on board. I love the first 2. I'm totally on board for the 3rd one, and I guess eventually the 4th one.
Yeah, a lot of fans have been lobbying for a movie to be titled Now You See Me, Now You Don't. So like even within their promotions, when they made the announcement, you saw they were like kind of putting all over the screens, all the people like commenting on social media is like, if this isn't the title of the movie, we riot type of bullshit. And so Either way they did it. I think it's a fun title. And yeah, surprisingly, Lionsgate must really be invested into this franchise or really like what they see out of Now You See Me, because they've already greenlit for a fourth movie. So it's kind of fun to like already going into Now You See Me, Now You Don't, knowing there's another one on the way. So for them, storytelling wise, they have an opportunity, very much like if a show's already renewed for another season, they can like they can maybe like throw in some like early, I don't know, not Easter eggs, but like they can plant some ideas that would have payoffs in the next movie. So that's kind of fun to think about, especially when you're writing and you're, doing all this. But yeah, I like, to your point, I've always loved the first. I definitely like the first movie better than the second one. But they're just fun movies to watch. I mean, they're the magicians doing heists, and so like, yeah, it's just like a good turn your brain off type of movie, and you're not really thinking too much into it, and you're just here to have a good time. And the fact that we have more of these, especially since there was a long gap between 2 and 3, obviously they see value in here, so I'm all about it.
Yeah, same. All right, moving on. John Wick 5 is officially in development with Keanu Reeves and franchise director Chad Stahelski returning. Lionsgate said that Keanu, Chad, and producers Basil and Erica would not return unless they had something truly phenomenal and fresh to say with these characters and this world. Yeah, it's so important to get this story right and give John's story the proper next step. It's exciting to take the first step on the road, even though like he said in many interviews that like John Wick is dead, but I guess he's dead until he's not. And guess what? Apparently he's not.
He's dead until Lionsgate's like, we really, really want you to do another one. It's like, no, John Wick is dead. Beep, beep, beep. That's the money train.
Back that money truck
right there.
Here. Yeah, put it right here in front of Keanu's house. All right, I guess we're coming back.
It's like, all right. And what's crazy is that like they don't need it, in my opinion. Like you already have so many shows and movies and this anime, like, and spin-offs. Like you're already expanding the world. You don't need, and I was okay with that. You already have 2 shows. You have the Continental and then another show that's coming out, like the High Table or something. You have Ballerina that comes out later this year. You have the Donnie Yen spin-off movie, another spin-off movie, and then you have the anime prequel also in the works. So like, what do you need a 5 for? You're expanding this world just fine. But I guess the Keanu Reeves in the tux in the suit sells tickets.
That's true. And as you were just mentioning, Donnie Yen will not only reprise his role as Kane, the blind assassin introduced in John Wick Chapter 4 in a standalone film, but will now direct the film as well. Madsen Tomlin, writer of the upcoming Batman Part 2 and the adaptation of the Reeves-created comic book Berserker, which is another project that I'm really excited for, is his comic book series Berserker being turned into its standalone film. This writer has also joined to write the project. So they have their core team who they work with, and they know how to tell good stories. I mean, and they're fun. They're fun, like crazy adventure movies, like very similar to the Shadow Strays movie we're going to be reviewing later. It's that exaggerated violence, like just crazy fight scenes. And John Wick, they know how to make their money. Like the first one was kind of grounded, and then afterwards they're just like, hold my beer, and they just went. It just gets crazier and crazier and crazier. Like John Wick is literally bulletproof by the end of the 4th movie. Like he gets hit by cars and he just walks away. Like it's all fine. Like everything's fine. He just gets destroyed. Fun movie.
Yeah,
totally here for it. So another turn your brain off and just like movies to just have a good time.
Yeah, and then you're gonna probably the John Wick Chapter 5 is going to start with like him like punching himself out of the grave or wherever he is,
exactly,
and is like, I'm back. It's like, all right, that's 4 more movies right there.
I never died. And you know what, Donnie Yen, he as Kane, he was great. He was one of the best things about Chapter 4. So I'm really excited for him for his new movie, and I think it's an added bonus that he's also going to be directing it as well. I think that's going to be a cool little nod. So yeah, I'm here for the next chapters of John Wick. Although I haven't seen any of the spin-off shows.
I mean, there's only one that's the Continental, which a lot of people said it wasn't good. It was only 3 episodes on Peacock, so it's not that much of an investment. But if that's something that you want to be like fully absorbed into the world, that's something there. But I never saw any intrigue
Eh,
with that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm 50-50 on a chapter 5. I think they were already doing a lot to expand the world. We didn't really need a chapter 5, but hey, money talks.
money
So
talks, Matthew. Money
I know.
talks.
I think out of all these projects, I'm most excited for the Donnie Yen movie.
I
He was a
agree.
great addition to chapter 4, and like the ending of that movie perfectly allowed for a spin-off. And that is like, I was like, yeah, I want to see that. Out of anything that they have announced so far, that's the one that makes the most sense to me. Having Ana de Armas and the ballerina, maybe I could be eating my words, but like I'm really not that excited to watch this movie.
Yeah, I'm reserved on that one because it might be good. If it's the same kind of style and they're putting the same kind of care into it, then it should be good. It's just gonna be a female John Wick, which I
Yeah,
like Ana de Armas. I could see it. Wasn't she in she was in James Bond, right? That one James Bond movie.
yeah,
And she was good.
that yeah. I mean, I was just about to mention that. Like her action, her scene in and her the action that she had in that scene in No Time to Die was great.
Yeah,
So I can understand why they would take her and like see what they saw from that movie and put her into her own action movie. That completely makes sense. But it didn't have to be tied to the John Wick universe.
that's fair. That's fair. That's
So,
fair.
but here we are. But
Here we are.
anyway, I'll probably watch it because I'm already invested into this franchise. But I'm not. I want to eat my words because I want it to be good. But as of like outside looking in, again, just what I've seen so far, it's not exciting me to rush the theater and go watch it.
Yeah, and so we're gonna there's two more CinemaCon news, and then like just as far as like it gives a blanket statement to the movie industry as a whole. But let's
Mhm.
get through these last two. So we got two more. Universal
Yeah.
Pictures has already announced the live action How to Train Your Dragon movie is getting a sequel that's going to hit theaters June 11th in 2027. Um, and then we're going to explore this when we review the movie later on this year. But I've actually never seen the original trilogy, like the animated trilogy. And that's
You
something
should.
I know, and I'm going to tackle that. That's going to be part of my homework when we watch the live action original. So
Mhm.
could I be excited for this? Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be. I'm sure it's gonna be good. People see people the original franchise is beloved. The problem is like you already greenlighting the second one, and live action remakes have it. They go either way.
Mhm.
They either really bad or really good. But I guess this one is very promising that they're already greenlighting it, and I think with the opening of Epic Universe, I think that's all. It's all tied into that because
Oh, for
they
sure.
want to keep pushing whatever they got going, all the crazy stuff they got going on over there. So I'm sure that this is exciting news. So my question to you, out of the franchise, the first, second, and third one, which is the best one? Like, which one should you be the most excited for?
I think How to Train Your Dragon, the first one, obviously sets the tone. I think each movie has able to build upon each other organically, where it really has like a nice story. I do believe the second one is slightly better than the first one.
Mm.
It explores, it takes risks for a kids movie, which I think it's some studios don't do that, especially with the filmmakers behind DreamWorks Animation. They typically lean more toward kid-friendly movies, but this particular franchise in general is definitely leaning toward of like we're going to be putting some, I wouldn't say heavy, but like heavy-ish subject matter into these movies, and we're kind of respecting the audience for adults and for children. These are one of the few trilogies that offer this to be a full family experience, not just gearing toward kids, with great storytelling. I think they wrapped up the trilogy quite nicely. Um, to my point of to your point about all these live action remakes, obviously Disney's been doing it for years. This is the first time DreamWorks is doing it with one of their properties, so why not especially if I'm DreamWorks, like, well, if Disney's doing it and they're making billions of dollars, why can't we do it for one of our popular franchises? And and here's the thing too, the fact that that the same director who did How to Train Your Dragon 1, 2, and 3 is also directing How to Train Your Dragon live action and its sequel. I'm really curious to be like, okay, if it's the same guy, how much are you offering new, or how much you really just like being in the world of How to Train Your Dragon to just how much, what are you offering aside from visuals?
So is this the first time that we're seeing that? Like, is this the first time that the original director from the animated is also taking control of the live action?
I want to say yes, but I honestly don't know.
Well, that's
You
interesting. That is interesting because it'll be interesting to like as a comparison. It's like, well, this director did the animated. It's like what? So not only like, are you making a shot for shot remake, or are you like what are you adding? What are you making different? Like how is this live action going to enhance the original story? I guess
exactly.
that's my main question.
And I think that is the question because I think the first How to Train Your Dragon movie came out in 2010 or 2011. So you're looking at about a 14 to 15 year gap between the original and the live action version of it. So how much as you as a filmmaker felt the need to change
Mm.
some of the things that you did, your choices that you made, 15 years ago going into this movie? Like, what are the differences? Are you going for more mature themes than you did for another movie? Like, who is this audience for? For the fans of 15 years ago? Like, you're making basically the same movie. So again, I'm just really curious to see how this turns out and if this is a success. Obviously, they premiered this movie at CinemaCon for all of the attendees, and they came walking out with rave reviews. And I feel like I say that with an asterisk because I'm sure if you got to see a movie early, obviously you're already going in there with a positive mindset. So, like, is it truly that great as you're walking out? It's like this was incredible, or you're just happy that you got to see a movie before anyone else? Like,
Or you just want to make
who
sure
knows?
are you just making sure you get invited to CinemaCon next year?
Exactly.
You always feel like
but yeah,
there's a little bit of that. Like they always like they're overhyping stuff because I've seen creators that hype stuff at these early events, and then you watch it and it's like, what is this garbage that you recommended
yeah.
to me?
It's almost like because you got to see it early, they're like you feel obligated to say something positive about it. Which I mean, no one's gonna walk in there and be like, "Damn, that movie sucked" in front of the camera as you're walking out of the movie. So, like, I don't think they're gonna be fully honest with it. But I will say that looking at the trailers, I have been impressed from what I've seen. So I am looking forward to seeing a live action version of this. And Hiccup, no, sorry, Toothless the Dragon looks incredible. Like that's probably the most impressive thing I've seen coming out of these trailers and the imagery of these movies. From what I've seen in the trailers, like that dragon looks pretty good.
Or maybe that he's always wanted to make it live action, and finally the technology is at a place where it can handle a How to Train Your Dragon live
Yeah.
action adaptation. Because it does, to me, it falls in the realm like Lilo and Stitch. Like, okay, that's a warranted live action remake because
hmm
because of having Stitch in that environment. So it makes sense why it's animated, why it is being made. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like, and this
Yeah, yeah.
project falls within that because you have these CGI dragons with these live action characters. So it makes sense to have that.
hmm Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see where this comes from and how, because now it'll give me a reason to watch the originals. I'll watch them with the kids, and well, it'll be either way. It's going to be a good time, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this one, the second one, along with the first one as well.
Yeah, and also, I mean, to your point, obviously DreamWorks, Universal are spearheading into this franchise, and they're like, "Yeah, let's start with the next one right away. Like these kids are still young. Let's get them moving."
Yeah. Don't go don't be Stranger Things, and that's sad because that franchise will be known for that. Oh, they had to
Yeah.
rewrite the ending because all these kids hit puberty and they look like grown ass adults by the end of it.
Pretty much. Because yeah, I mean, a quick turnaround, 2 years. They're starting right now.
Yeah,
on the sequel.
they're already getting cracking.
hmm
And then safe to say that they'll probably go ahead and spearhead the third one as soon as they're
At
done
this
with
point.
this one. Yeah, exactly. If you're gonna make the second one, you might as well make the third one.
Exactly. Yeah.
So finally, Paramount Pictures, the upcoming animated Avatar film is officially titled The Legend of Aang, The Last Airbender, will hit theaters January 20th, 2026. The film will have a completely new voice cast for our main heroes, with the exception of Dante Bosco, who is returning to voice Zuko. Dave Bautista is recently announced. Stephen Yeun are also part of the cast in unknown roles. Lauren Montgomery, supervising producer of The Legend of Korra, and William Mata will both make their directorial debut by co-directing the film with Kenneth Lin, staff writer and producer for House of Cards and Star Trek Discovery, writing the script. Yeah, I'm curious. I think it's going to be awesome. It would have been nice to get some of the other original voice actors besides
Yeah.
Zuko. I mean, it would have been fine. I guess it makes sense because you want them to sound grown up, and Dante Bosco's, I guess, he's already grown, but so are all these other voice actors. All the other voice actors are grown. Or I mean, I don't know, like, because they're not, like, how much different is it going to be? I guess
I
the one that
agree.
really,
Like, obviously,
the one that really needs to be different is Aang, because in the show he's like it's not like he's like a little kid. He's like a child. Like, it's like a little kid in
yeah.
the show. So I mean, we kind of need man Aang to kind of handle shit. But I don't know.
But to your point, like, these people have grown up, so why not bring them back for these roles? Like, obviously they've hit puberty too, so their voice would have dropping. But maybe they're going for a new angle at this, or maybe I don't know, maybe they couldn't work out a deal. It could be as simple as that. But I'm sure they would have come back for this movie. It is weird why they would not bring back the original cast, but only bring back Dante Basco, yeah.
Which is so interesting, because all the other voice casts, like, as we met them at MegaCon, and they're still very much like promoting the show. Like, I don't know, you figured you would want to give love to the original voice actors, who is the reason why you are making this movie. The reason why you're making these movies is because of those voice actors and the work that they put in, the writers, and the work that they put into the original show. So I mean, I get it. They probably want to put some big names attached to it, Steven Yeun, Dave Bautista, but I don't think it was necessary. It would have been nice to give that love to the original voice actors.
But it's not like these Dave Bautista and Stephen Young, it's not like they're voicing the main heroes. They're voicing other characters. If you go to IMDb, they have completely different voice casts for the main heroes, and none of those people are recognizable names. So it's not like you couldn't, like, unless they're looking for something very specific, or the other voice actors were not available. Those are the only two reasons why you wouldn't bring him back. But I mean, seeing Dave Bautista and Stephen Yeun involved, I guess it's exciting. We don't know what they're doing, but sure, they're involved with this. I think for me, the most thing that I'm excited for is just for this thing to come out. We've been talking about a new Aang movie for years now, and we finally have an official release date. We don't have no trailers or anything yet. We're still, a good 9 months away from seeing this movie. But I'm just excited to see that this is finally coming to fruition, on top of the Seven Havens news we talked about 2 weeks ago. So yeah, the Avatar Studios have been developing all these years, and now we get to see what comes out of this.
Yeah, and I'm excited for this, but I just want to go back to just the CinemaCon in general, just because I am excited for most of these projects. But isn't it kind of sad that 99% of these projects are all franchise continuation or adaptations? Like, you don't hear any, like, I didn't hear any original stories. Everything is a continuation of everything that's already been in development. Across the Spider-Verse Part 3 is Part 3. Spider-Man Brand New Day is Spider-Man 4. The only original thing is Beatles, but that's really like an adaptation. Like, you're adapting the stories of their life and how they became the Beatles. So that's kind of original, but yeah, even then that's kind of questionable. Now You See Me 3, okay, that's the Part 3 to this franchise. John Wick 5, like, Donnie Yen, that's a continuation from a major franchise. Universal, How to Train Your Dragon, that's a continuation of a live action. That's a remake of an original franchise. Like Avatar, that's a continuation of a mega franchise. And this is just the stuff that we talked about. There's others, like they talked about Sunrise on the Reaping, which I'm extremely excited for, but continuation from a franchise. Superman, continuation of a massive IP. Like,
yeah,
I am excited for most of these projects, but, like, I don't know, it'd be nice to hear some original stories. What I am liking, and this is not related to this, but that Sinners, Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan's new film, is getting rave reviews, and that's an original story. So there is some out there. I just feel like there should be more of it. There should be more. We need more original stories.
I mean, to be fair though, I mean, I've selected a few of the stories that are definitely making the headlines.
No, yeah,
In CinemaCon, there were other things that were announced that we've already talked about before that could technically be original stories or book adaptations, which in some cases, if you didn't know, based off a book, which any movies now is probably based off of something at this point. I feel like it is. I mean, they were talking about The Running Man, which we've already talked about with Glenn Powell. with I think Edgar Wright. Yeah, so they talked about that movie, but again, that's a remake of an older movie. And so, like, yeah, I mean, and then also as part of CinemaCon, they're like, here are the movies that are going to bring people to your theater, and we're giving you the first look and the for those announcements. And like, I get it. I mean, unfortunately, we live in a time where like you put out an original movie, not a lot of people are going to go watch it. You really have to have a big name attached with like Christopher Nolan or Martin, hell, even Mark Scorsese. That's not even a household name anymore for people to go to the theater to go see. And that's evident with like the Killers of the Flower Moon. A lot of people saw that movie in theaters, but a lot of people, waited for it to come at home. But there's only a few directors that lend itself to be like, I need to see this movie in the theaters, and Christopher Nolan's one of them. Steven Spielberg, to some degree, depending on his movie, people can go watch it. Ryan Coogler, Jordan Peele. These are also great filmmakers that are putting out movies, and specifically Jordan Peele, who's coming out with his own original movies and drawing major box office numbers attached to it.
Yes.
So, like, it's there, but to your point, it could be more. But I think a lot of studios are taking safer bets on putting bigger budgets into known IPs that they can get an investment back into it. I mean, hell, look at Mickey 17. Like, yes, it was adapted from a book, but you would think that Bong Joon-ho and Robert Pattinson would be big draws for people to go to the theater, and it wasn't. So like, theaters are going to look, or studios are going to look at that. It's like, well, clearly this didn't work, even though it was a good movie, but it didn't put people in the seats. So instead, we're going to focus on giving you the next chapter of whatever major franchise we own. So it's a sad truth, but I think where we're probably lacking in the cinema of giving us original content, at least I feel like we're getting some of that in our television.
And not for nothing, I get it, because we're at a point where they're just trying to get people back into theaters, and this is the safest, best way to do that.
Yeah. But we're gonna put a pause on CinemaCon. We do have one more piece of news to come out of CinemaCon, but I feel like we got to get some context before we talk about this last bit of news. And it's been an interesting week, specifically for Warner Brothers Discovery and the Looney Tunes. But we're gonna first start off with Warner Brothers Discovery's streaming service, Max, has quietly gone through a rebrand just this past week. Max ditched the shiny blue user interface for a new microchrome color palette that either purposefully or not invokes the longtime branding of HBO. The color change now matches the same palette as the HBO logo, which may help consumers associate the two brands with one another. This is stupid.
Yeah, this is dumb.
Mainly because, yes, looking at the past, 10 years of HBO and their mirage of different logo rebranding. If you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see that we have HBO Go, which was the original streaming service that they kind of came out with. Then they transformed that to HBO Max, which invoked this purple color, obviously standing out between the other streaming services that never use purple. And then we, for some reason, went to this shiny blue that is very, not similar, but Paramount is blue, Disney was blue at the time. Like, I don't know why they left the purple color scheme, because it was different. And now we decided to go with this darker microchrome color that, yes, is very similar to the HBO logo. So then at the end of all of this, why call it Max? Just call it HBO.
Yeah, what are we doing? Like, how did we went away from it just to come back to it?
Exactly. But we already did all this marketing and this rebranding for this Max title, especially a few months ago when we talked about how they want to get rid of Max originals and put them back under HBO originals on some of the titles. And they were able to do that very quickly with the Penguin and the Dune series, and then also the Harry Potter stuff that's no longer adopting the Max branding and now putting back to HBO. So if you're already ditching the Max brand that's no longer associated with rich storytelling that HBO has, then what's the point in leaving Max? You might as well just, at this point, you should have just left HBO Max.
Yeah.
Like, at least that's in the title. Like, it just makes no sense. And every time I see any type of change every few years with Warner Brothers, it just pisses me off. Not like to a large degree, but like, what are you doing? This makes zero. Just go back to HBO. People know what that is. You've been a household name for 20 years now, 20 plus years. No one gives a shit about Max. Just call it what people want to hear it. It's HBO, period.
Exactly. Period.
Period. All right. Enough of that. And more, this is, again, going along the lines now, the next three pieces of news have been the struggling story with the Looney Tunes and the Warner Brothers studios. First of which, more than a year ago, Warner Brother Pictures shelved the Looney Tunes inspired live action animated hybrid film Coyote versus Acme for tax incentives. The film has finally found a new home after more than a year of just shelving the movie. Ketchup Entertainment has officially acquired the worldwide rights for Coyote versus Acme from Warner Brother Pictures for a price tag of reportedly $50 million. Now, what's crazy about that is that I'm sure this movie was shopped around years ago, about a year ago, to other film studios, and they were interested. And I believe they wanted at price at 50 million or the 70 million, and they weren't willing to budge on that. Or I think they were wanting to sell it for like 120, even though the cost of the movie was 70, and no other studio wanted to pay $120 million for this movie. And so they're like, all right, well, we're just not selling it. And now to hear a year later, they're like, well, the film cost 70, but we're willing to give it up for 50. What?
I mean, at this point, it's just like we just need to like get something that's better than nothing.
But they already shelved it for their tax reasons. So like at this point, I think they were trying to reap in what they were going to get back for the tax incentives last year. So if that's the case, and now you sold the movie, do you lose out on that money? Like, or do you gain that in addition to the 50 mil?
Yes, that's what I think. That was last year taxes.
Yeah.
Oh, but this year we decided to sell it. Last year we decided to shelve it. So what would be, so granted, it's kind of shady and kind of shisty it seems like what they're doing, but maybe we can at least see that same thing with the Batgirl film, which I don't think, but now saying it out loud, I don't think will happen because it would be tied to the DCEU unless they just leave it as an Elseworld project and just drop it. Like just drop it on Max, say it's Elseworld. It has nothing to do with the continuity. At least that work gets put out there.
I feel like we're more in line to get that Scoob holiday film that's already sitting on the shelf and finished. I feel like that's more likely to get out rather than the Batgirl. I mean, all that just goes down to if James Gunn even wants another movie out there to do that. I feel like that's more his decision than anything else. But the studio is going to do what the studio is going to do.
True. That's true.
Coyote versus Acme is now expected to hit theaters in 2026. Garth West, the CEO of Ketchup Entertainment, said in a statement, "We're thrilled to have made a deal with Warner Brothers Pictures to bring this film to audiences worldwide. Coyote versus Acme is a perfect blend of nostalgia and modern storytelling, capturing the essence of the beloved Looney Tunes characters while introducing them to a new generation. We believe it will resonate with both longtime fans and newcomers alike." That is the mentality that I'm sure this movie was trying to do, and Warner Brothers selfishly took that away from audiences, and it kind of rang it through the mud to get money back. And it just kind of shows like the lack of care the Warner Brothers Discovery studio has for Looney Tunes, which has been part of their branding for many years. So it's kind of just disheartening to see. And then you have Ketchup Entertainment's like, we understand what this movie is trying to be. And it makes complete sense. Yeah, it's obviously you're trying to bring back the Looney Tunes into a new generation, just like how Space Jam: A New Legacy was for a lot of people, and Space Jam in general, what it was back in the 90s. Ketchup Entertainment already has a history bringing Looney Tunes back into the theaters by recently just distributing the animated film The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, which is currently now playing in theaters. So they probably had a good investment on that, and there's like, hey, we want to buy the other one that you shelved. Bring that back, please. So there's that. And then on top of that, so now you've already had this like one of the most controversial stories of last year of Warner Brothers shelving a film and kind of holding back a Looney Tunes film. But now that seems to be rectified. But then if you think the Looney Tunes and Warner Brothers story is over, think again. Also in the same week, the Looney Tunes animated shorts, which ran during the golden age of animation from 1930 through 1969, have been removed from the Max streaming service. Deadline confirmed with a representative that the original shorts are no longer on Max. This is part of a new plan whereby the streamer will prioritize adult and family programming. Children's programming, such as the Looney Tunes and the Sesame Street before it, doesn't fare as well and is no longer viewed as a priority. Other spin-off versions of Looney Tunes remain on the service, including the 6 seasons of the 2020 Looney Tunes cartoons, among other newly released animated shows and shorts. I'm sorry, respectfully, Warner Brothers, you can go fuck off with that announcement.
I mean, I understand. I hear you, but I understand what they're saying. Like, yeah, we have it on here, but for them, it's probably taking up too much space on their servers, and like not enough people are watching it, and it's just holding up space. Whereas they can just give that children's programming, they can just give that to, which is what they should do. Is just give it to Catch Up Entertainment and let them distribute it how they see fit. Like, you know, they're already getting like most of the Looney Tunes stuff. Like, why not just give it to them? Like, why not just sell them the rights to Looney Tunes and just get royalties? Like, if you're not willing to invest to put more properties in it, like let these smaller companies do that. Like, you don't like, and I think that's the purpose. Like, stop having these massive companies like Disney and Apple. They keep buying up all these small studios so that, but if we have these small studios, they can get these big-ish properties that they can put out and bolster their entertainment. Does that make sense? Like,
No,
instead
it
of it
does,
all going to
and
this
I think they
massive-
should,
Yeah.
obviously.
Instead of all these IPs going to all the massive streamers, like give some love to the little streamers so they can at least stay in the game somewhat.
I think it's just, to me, it's just disheartening to see that, especially they did it a few months ago with Sesame Street. It's like there's no pride anymore for these longtime characters that had once been established as, you know, it's part of, you know, animation history. It's part
Yes.
of cinematic history, and the fact that they are just kind of throwing them off to the wayside and not even giving people a chance to kind of view some of the classic animated stuff. It's, I don't know, like, and also the fact that you said these are children programming, the one specifically within the years of 1930 to 1969, but their newer stuff, that's not children's programming. Like, we still want to keep some of the Looney Tunes, but not the older stuff, the one that people probably, or at least more adults would probably watch more, and have no care to preserve some of its you know, some of its history on its streaming service.
Like all the OG stuff. Like, they just like, it's all right. We got the new stuff, that the new animation. Nobody wants to watch these old cartoons. And that's the thing. They think that there's no love for old cartoons. But I bet you if you did like some sort of service, some streaming service that's like basically like Nick at Night for cartoons, and if, just side note, if we had one just for Nick at Night, like that kind of stuff, like people are drawn to that, like old school TV. Like, I used to love, for me as a kid, I used to love watching old cartoons and watching old TV shows. That's when I would watch like Nick at Night. I would watch like Taxi and like Bewitched and I Dreamed a Genie. Shows that are way out of new runs, that are not even, you know, they're old. They're old at this point. They're syndicated. That's the word I was looking for. Like, do the same thing for these cartoons. Put it somewhere and just have them stream it. Like, just have it.
Well, technically, that already exists in a way. I mean, that's what Boomerang was for the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Like, Boomerang was a way to kind of house some of the older cartoons, and then you also have TV Land or something that housed some of the older, like, live, you know, the older shows from the 50s and whatnot. And so, granted, I say all this, it's not like I'm going to Max looking for the old Looney Tunes cartoons. Like,
I do.
I
have
feel like
children.
Sorry?
I said I do. I have children. Sometimes, you know, when we don't want to put stuff with, like, we don't want to put something like immediate on. Like, we just want to put something on in the background. Like, I'll put on, I literally have specifically put on Looney Tunes season 1 and just let it play. And then it's just on in the background. Like old school cartoons, like kids would play in their house, and you just have like cartoons playing in the background. They don't have to pay attention to it, like sitting there paying attention. They can go off and terrorize and play and do whatever, and then come back and come right back to it, and, you know, still be enjoyable.
Yeah. It's to your point. I understand if that's what they're no longer a priority, to keep some of the old classics here. It's just kind of disheartening to hear, especially in an age where, like, this stuff isn't as accessible. And I think the only way that this becomes, I guess, a little bit okay is if they, in conjunction with this announcement, is like, hey, we're no longer leaving this on the service, but if you go to our YouTube channel, all of this stuff is available for free.
Yeah.
And then you can watch it there, instead of just not giving people access to being able to watch this, unless, you know, you go to like a place where you can buy it digitally or probably find the DVDs somewhere.
Yeah. I guess so.
And then with that, again, it is kind of compiling with one another just days after just days after that particular news, Warner Brothers Discoveries disclosed their plans to tear down a historic building, a building called 131, that once stored Looney Tune classic shorts and cartoons at the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank, California. The demolition was said to create more base camp space for many of the HBO shows that are shooting in the production lot. And then if you look, again, if you're watching us, you can see on the bottom right-hand corner that these are protesters kind of putting in signs on the building before it's demolished. And one says, "Not cool, Doc," for shutting down this building. I mean, to be fair, if you look at this building from the outside, it does look old. I'm sure it's maybe wasn't housed and you want to use that space for something useful. I get that. I can also understand people's frustrations that you're demolishing a historic building that once used to create some of these iconic cartoons. But it's just interesting that literally between the selling of the Coyote versus Acme film and the fact that you're taking away the original shorts from the streaming service, in addition to demolishing a building where some of these were housed, it just all happening in the same week. Definitely feels like, Warner Brothers' big week of just kind of sweeping some of the old Looney Tunes cartoons away.
Yeah.
But
Very
then
sad.
with all of that now going back to CinemaCon, and I just wanted that to have some pretense for this last bit of news that we have. So CinemaCon, lastly, we're going to talk about Warner Brothers animation, all that stuff that come out of CinemaCon. First of which is the Cat in the Hat animated film starring Bill Hader as the Cat, is set to hit theaters March 6, 2026. I'm very looking forward to seeing how this looks and how Bill Hader is as Cat in the Hat. That's very exciting for me. And to see also, you have the Dr. Seuss entertainment franchise or entertainment company kind of moving away from their live action stuff and also moving away from Illumination, who gave us the Lorax and the Grinch, and partnering up with Warner Brothers to give us not just this Cat in the Hat movie, but also what was announced at CinemaCon was Warner Brothers Seussiverse is expanding with Dr. Seuss's the Place You'll Go animated film. The Place You'll Go. There you go. Yeah. Animated film in the works, slated to hit theaters March 17th, 2028. So a little bit of ways to go. Here's the most interesting part about this. The film will be directed by John M. Chu, the director behind Wicked, and Jill Compton, who she directed The Abominable for DreamWorks, with the screenplay written by Rob Lieber, who did Peter Rabbit, and original songs from Benji Pasek and Justin Paul, who gave us the wonderful sounds of Dear Evan Hansen and The Greatest Showman and La La Land. Like, great writers. The Dr. Seuss Entertainment and J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot will also be producing this movie. What? That's a lot going on. A lot of heavy hitters going into this animated film, and that makes me very excited.
Yeah.
And then also continuing on, Margie Claus, the holiday musical comedy starring Melissa McCarthy, in her first animated film, will hit theaters November 5th, 2027. A little ways to go, but kind of interesting that Melissa McCarthy, with her long-standing comedic career, has never voiced an animated character.
Yeah, I think this will be a nice change for her, kind of, I guess, like entering the next phase of her career.
Yeah, pretty much. And then again, all that pretense earlier to really just talk about this last piece of news. The animated film based on Hanna-Barbera cartoon The Flintstones, titled Meet the Flintstones, is in development. They announced that. The film will be written by the Super Mario Brothers director duo Aaron Horvick and Michael Jelenic. It was also teased. So they teased that they were working on this Meet the Flintstones movie, which has a directing duo behind it. And then they also teased that a Tom and Jerry animated film is also in the works. And get this, a Looney Tunes animated film are in development. So you did all of that legwork in the beginning, like earlier this week, that you sold off your live action hybrid film. You took the cartoons off your streaming service. You're demolishing the building, but yet you still see value in the franchise, and you are in active development of making an animated film, but yet you just did all that the week prior. Really strange for Warner Brothers to do all that.
All that tells me is that maybe that they don't really care for the Looney Tunes movie, that they want to rebrand, that they're basically like rebranding and want to make sure that their branding is solid and it's not mixed in with anything else that's past Looney Tunes or like this live action. Like it's completely. It almost seems like they want to make sure that it's separate. That's what that tells me. That well,
I don't know.
we're gonna rebrand the Looney Tunes exactly how we want it, and we're not entirely on board with everything y'all did. So you guys can keep that over there. We're gonna sell you all the stuff, and then we're gonna make our own Looney Tunes movie. That's exactly how we want it. That's what that's my initial impression when I hear that.
Yeah, I guess that makes the most sense, which is really strange and another interesting move to come out of Warner Brothers within the last few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's that. So we're getting more. Things are being released. Things are being taken away. It's just all strange, but here we are. I am happy for Warner Brothers Animation because I feel like they've been kind of maybe just doing a lot of straight to home, like DVD stuff, and like especially working with the DC universe and all. And I haven't really seen much for them in the theaters, so I'm glad to see them get some love and actually working on some projects we'll get to see in the theaters soon.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from CinemaCon. In other interesting news, David Fincher, director of Seven, Gone Girl, and The Social Network, is directing a sequel to Quentin Tarantino's 2019 Oscar-winning film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with Quentin Tarantino writing the screenplay. Brad Pitt will reprise his Oscar-winning role as stuntman Cliff Booth. To make things more interesting is that the sequel will premiere on Netflix, where Fincher took his first look deal. It's an especially unique production, not only because of the high-profile directors helming the sequel to another high-profile director's film, but also because the properties shift from a theatrical studio to a streamer. Other details, including plot, casting, and release date, have not been announced. I think it's interesting because, like, it is a continuation. So it makes sense. Like where it's not the main storyline that's went out into the theaters. This is the side story that can, the sequel that I guess a few people were asking for. But his character was the most interesting thing about that film. So I'm here for an exploration to see where this goes. And it is interesting that Tarantino, because he's done. Is he done? Did he do his 10th film yet?
He did not do his 10th film.
So he's got one. So he's not going to be directing, but he's going to be solely writing, which I'm here for. I'm totally here for. I think this will be great.
Yeah, he was once attached to do a movie. I forgot what it was called, with Brad Pitt to be his 10th and final movie, but then he ended up scrapping that altogether. And he has said in the past that yes, he's only going to be directing one more movie, whenever that may be, but he's open to continue writing movies. So this is probably maybe that avenue for him is like, I am down for writing a sequel to my movie, but I don't want to direct it. And maybe they worked out a deal with David Fincher, who has a deal with Netflix, and then they found a good script, or maybe Quentin Tarantino had a good script already in mind, but didn't want to direct it, and then found some connection with David Fincher and his first look deal with Netflix and wanting to involve Brad Pitt. This whole thing does just sound very interesting. The fact that specifically Quentin Tarantino, who is known for working with other directors, not to say that he hasn't, but to like, here's my franchise that I want to write, but I don't necessarily want to direct. I'm giving to another high prolific director to do it, and also doing it under Netflix's streaming service. So kind of very in a similar to way, but and the fact that like going from theaters to streamer, you have like Knives Out, which was a big movie in the theater, and then Knives Out 2 and 3. With Glass Onion was already at Netflix. The other one's coming up soon, later this year, I believe. That's now on Netflix. So kind of in that similar vein.
Yeah.
But anyway, there you go. That's all the entertainment news we have for you guys this week. As always, you can follow us on Facebook at Box Office Bingers, as well as our Threads and Instagram page at boxoffice_bingers. For our latest and breaking news, we'll post it over there first, and we'll come back in the show and we'll talk about it. So now we're going to move over to, again, a curated Whatcha Watchin, and we're really specifically focusing on Severance Season 2, a show that, because of the award season, we kind of weren't really watching or really talking about for the last few weeks, but with it all over, we've done all the homework, we've watched all the episodes, and now Ernesto, will go to you. What were your thoughts on Severance Season 2?
I really liked it. I think it started out stronger than it ended. But I think overall, this is a fantastic season of television. For me, what really stands out more than anything out of this series is the cinematography. It is like it is just beautiful. It is just beautiful to look at. There are times where you can take the screen and literally cut it in half, and it's just asymmetrical. Like it's just it just works. It just works. It's great. I think there are some things they explored in the second season that I really enjoyed. The between the innies, kind of like really exploring just the essence of the innies and outies, and like trying to understand them as people who are trying to, like, these company has gone through all this, and the individuals who signed up for it to split their lives completely between their outside and inside. But then really what they did is just created two individuals, each seeking another half of their life. That's
Mhm.
kind of like my main takeaway, especially with the way the finale ended. Um, but like you see, what is his name? Dylan. So to me, Dylan, I
Yeah.
really loved his arc this season. I think it to me, it really exemplified like the innie and outie struggle. I think between him and a little bit of Irving as well too, played by John Toretto. I think the exploration of both of them, because Irving, he uncovers that Helly was secretly, we knew at the end of the first season that she is Helena Egan. So she is like basically the main board, one of the main people who run the company. She put herself as an any, just kind of like, you know, I don't really understand why did she put herself in there? Was it just to
Oh,
infiltrate the program, or was it to be with Mark S? Like,
I think the way that I took it was that it could have been a little bit of both. It could have been her going in to kind of manage from the inside of like some of the craziness that was happening, especially with the overtime contingency plan happening at the end of season one. I think she was kind of going there, making sure things were kind of going smoothly because she didn't believe in Milchek and his, I guess, leadership, I should say, or his overseeing. So just another added bonus there. But I think selfishly, in addition to that, I think she kind of was looking at Heliar of a version of herself that she could never be, and kind of longing for that. The fact that her any self can be as vulnerable to even find love or have the option to find love. I think she wanted that, and that's why we saw within the first 4 episodes of like her even sleeping with Mark. She wanted that. That wasn't part of an infiltration thing. It's like she wanted to have what her any had, and the way I see it was a relationship that just happened now be with Mark S.
that's a really interesting thing you just pointed out, because we see that again with Dylan's character, because he
Mhm.
wants what his Audi has. Conversely, he wants that love that his Audi has, and whereas his Audi wants the confidence and like he wants, yeah, confidence that his Innie has, because they're both like they're both split, but they each have a part of each other's life that the other one wants. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's with each of them. And then it's really interesting with Mark, because Mark, they each want what each other have, but they're at an impasse with like all the others where they can't have it. Where Mark S wants to be with Helly, who's in MDR, whereas Mark the Audi wants his wife who's trapped inside,
Yeah.
and they each kind of need something. And then I thought it was an interesting dynamic. I really loved the scene in the finale where they're kind of going back and forth on the
Yes.
camcorder. I thought that was really, really interesting to see that back and forth. And I mean, kudos to Adam Scott, like playing those two characters uh, off of one, and basically playing the same character off of himself to give
Yeah.
us this dynamic and you don't even question it, that there's two people talking to each other. Like the way it played out, I think it was expertly shot and curated, that you were fully engulfed in any Mark talking to Audi Mark. And I just thought the just the way it was edited together, like it just made it for a very engaging scene that, like, it must have been very hard to construct, like just to take
Yeah.
that concept and to build it to what they did in the finale. I thought was really, really well done.
Honestly, I feel like that specific scene was the buildup from the whole season.
Yes,
Like
yes,
I
I agree.
think that because we were all of season one, we're with mainly with our any characters, and we're exploring what Lumen is, and then every now and then we get glimpses of the Audi characters. But now, because the overtime contingencies, like it was a great buildup from season one to be like, what are these characters mainly like how they are outside, and we get like these big revelations, specifically with Helly, Dylan, and Irving. But then now season 2, because now we kind of have a glimpse of what these characters are, we get to explore their Audi versions of these, and then really offered a unique dynamic that really no other show has been able to to kind of do like this, where we can have the same actor play kind of do slightly different versions of themselves, but also see how one interacts with the other, and how literally with like within this Lumen uh MDR like workplace structure, you kind of see how much different each person is um from their innie self and their outie self, and they played that really well. So the fact that the season was kind of building upon like the stories of the outie versions of themselves and the innie version of themselves, all leading up to we have an impasse where we are now kind of on the side of both the innie version of Mark and the outie version of Mark. Like
Yeah.
there was really, I never felt like, oh, one was right over the other. They both made solid arguments of why they wanted to do the things that they did. And so when you see that conversation, that's basically like, what would one version of yourself say to the other? And I think that was done beautifully. That was like a great road to that scene throughout the season, and then it was kind of executed perfectly of how we would want that. That's how drama is built, and then that kicked off the episode going into the finale of like what is going to happen. Like what does that mean? We both have a goal. We want Gemma out of Lumen because it's wrong that she's trapped in there, and we want to be on the we want to side with Audi Mark. But then any Mark was like, well, if I help you, you're never going to come back. Like I'm like, my existence is now gone. And treating your any self as another person within this series is something very, very, very unique to explore.
Yeah, another, it just adds another complex layer. My one thing I just don't understand, like, okay, so Gemma has this miscarriage, and then like Lumen decides they're gonna take control of her, and then they give her all these personalities. But why? I felt like I didn't understand the purpose for Gemma being trapped in there, and the purpose of giving her all of these personalities that Mark
Yeah.
was unlocking through his MDR work.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously one of the main mysteries going into season 3 of why was Gemma down there. There was a few theories that I was reading online because it didn't seem like she went unwillingly. So it was kind of like, did she partner up with Lumen for fertility treatments? That seemed like that's what I was able to digest after the apparent miscarriage, and then maybe they were working hard to try and have a baby again. And what we don't know is the how we got from there with Lumen to um her like having to fake her own death. Well, not her specifically, but Looming faking her own death to keep her trapped in there. That's where I think the line is. Like that's where our confusion is. There's obviously something there. A lot of people pointed out in the episode 6, which is arguably one of the best episodes of the season, when we got to see Gemma and Mark's kind of relationship kind of blossom. It was shot very differently, and it has had a very different feel to it. But with the people saw the doctor that was kind of with her in every single um in every single room. I forgot his name, but he was at the fertility clinic when they were signing up for it. So this seemed like a long con if for Lumen to kind of maybe infiltrating, certain people to do certain things that they wanted. And at the end of the day, I think they were kind of testing to see if like I think they were putting her through different levels of trauma. In some cases, like the pain you would feel going to the dentist's office, the pain you would feel in during Christmas time. I'm not sure what exactly that storyline was. I think they were testing different pain levels, and then the very end, which was why it was so crucial, was the pain that she felt, having this miscarriage. And the fact that they put her in a room, it's like, do you feel anything? Kind of dismantle this crib that that in your Audi world that your husband had dismantled because you had a miscarriage. Like, if you don't feel any pain off of seeing this and dismantling it, then I think we perfected potentially having a world where people can no longer feel pain. But they're just doing it in a really messed up way. And a lot of people are also theorizing that this could be a way for the people of Lumen and the history of Egan can have immortal life. I don't know.
It's probably
But
more of that than anything. And then they never
Yeah.
really explained the goats.
they were just used as a sacrifice, it appears. Like,
But why?
that's it. Yeah, it's part of some external, existential, spiritual thing. I feel like, to me, I just look at the goats as this part of the randomness of the show.
And I understand. So I like the ending. My thing is I don't understand. So Mark S, the any Mark, makes a decision at the last minute. He pushes Gemma out, and she reverts back to her original self. And then any Mark, there's this moment where he's in a hallway and he has to make a choice. Does he go to the Audi and then destroy the innies, or does he try to fight within and go to Heli? So any Mark has no connection to Gemma, but so he is fully invested in whatever Heli is. But he only lives in certain areas of the world, whereas Audi Mark has much more area to grow. So then he decides to go with Heli, and then we get like this dramatic, like red and white, as the all hell's breaking loose on the Audi floor, on the any floor, where he decides he's gonna run with her, and they're gonna try to fight it from the inside. Like, what is the plan? Like, is the plan to, I guess, activate the overtime contingency full time, or to reintegrate? Because if Lumen goes down in any way, shape, or form, like, you're all dead anyway. So, like, what is that about? You know what I
I
mean?
personally think that there is no plan. Like, I think that in this moment, I think he's just trying to buy more time. Like, if he's dead anyway, why not get a few more extra minutes with the person that he loves? Like,
That's fair.
you're just running away. Like, there's nowhere to go. You're stuck on this floor. Eventually, they're gonna get you. And a lot of people are theorizing that if they really want to extend this, they could have an any uprising.
Which is, I think,
Where,
I
like,
think that's what's gonna happen.
yeah, where, like, obviously you have Dylan and Mark S and Heli R kind of holding certain elements hostage for the people of Lumen to try to kind of get out of these people, because now they're all a liability and they want them out, but they're holding not only their Audis hostage, but also Lumen in general. So they're kind of trying to fight a revolution. To at what end, I don't know. Like, I think that's also part of it. There's also the reintegration process that they explored at the end of the finale, where, like, he's like, oh, we, like, Mark asks his out, he's like, we'll work out something. It's like, I don't believe you. Like, once you have your wife, you have no reason to go back to your any self. And, like, who am I? Like, I am no longer existing. I kind of go away. So in that moment, to your point, he has no interest in Gemma, but he did the right thing. He helped out his Audi.
Yeah, he
Like, I
got
think
Gemma out.
in that moment, his mission is complete. She is now safe, and his Audi would feel very happy that she is safe, and he knows that because his Audi was able to physically rescue her in that moment.
Yeah.
But now he's like, okay, I did this, but once I walk through that door, I will never know if I'm able to get out again. Like, I will never know if I cease to exist again once I walk through that door. But if I turn the other way and be with Heli R for just a minute more, I think for him that was worth it at that time, because I think he knows his time is limited.
That's fair. And I actually like, that makes sense. And I think all the stuff with Milchek, I thought it was really funny. Like, I just thought he was great. And then that whole ending scene with the marching band, I feel like that was like a play on, like, corporate culture when they have parties and they have massive celebrations for like little things, and they go all out for like shit like that. It's like, that's what that kind of reminded me of. And we had this massive band, and he does this big thing just because Mark finished. I mean, he finished the big, the Cold Harbor file. But it's like, to have a fucking marching band on standby like that, I thought it was just so crazy. It was just like, it was all a bunch of crazy shit happening, and it was just like, he gives Dylan the letter, and then he just fucking bolts out the door. He just like he full sprint.
Like, it was I don't think that the letter left his hand, and he's like,
gone. He's like, I'm gonna leave you alone to not be. What did he? I forgot what he said, but he was like, I'm gonna be here just I'm not gonna be here to see your emotional response, and he drops it
Yeah.
and fucking bolts out the door. And then
I think
we get this crazy marching band scene in the end.
incredible. Honestly, I loved Milchek in this season.
I agree.
I think because I think they explored a little bit more of his character and his dynamic of like he is all in on Lumen, but you see the cracks that that he's not happy with, and he wants the respect that no one gives him. And then when he tries to like man up for himself, when he was like, stop using big words, and then he's like, he says something else, and he's like, simpler, and he goes, I apologize, like shorter, and he goes, I'm sorry. But then on top of that, then he like goes back on that, and I forgot exactly what his phrase was, but he basically told that guy to go fuck off.
Yeah, he's like that means eat shit.
Yes.
Or something. It was something along those lines. But to me, he was like that, like the company man that the company just doesn't give a shit about. Like that.
Yes.
To me, that's who that character is. Like the guy who's like all for the company. He wants nothing to do. He's like all for the best for them. He thinks that they're amazing, but they could literally fucking care less. They're like, just do. Like, we just want you to do your job and shut up. We don't want you to promote or like, because he's always like, oh, hail Kier. And he's like, I'm so blessed to have this painting of Kier and the Egans. And like, he knows all the verses in the Bible. Like, to me, it was just, he's the tryhard that the company's like, okay, all right, here's your pat on the back. Here you go. There you go, big guy. It's like,
yeah. But there's also a moment where he was trying to talk to the other woman before his assessment. And he's like, hey, so about those paintings, like, it feels a little weird that like he like here is black here just to appease to me, like, and then he's like, hey, can we just have like a serious, like, he even like in his own words, he was like, can we just have like a serious conversation for a second? And then like you can see her trying to process that and was like,
no,
they're ready to see you now, like almost like she thought about it for like a split second. And she was like, no, we're not having a real conversation. Your interview is ready. Your assessment is ready now. And like, you can tell he's like, damn, fuck, man, come on. And also the same to that end where like he's trying to be the company man, and then like MDR is just fucking shit up, especially when they go off their Orbo, their retreat. And he's like, damn it, we're trying to do this thing, and you're not taking the story seriously. So no s'mores for you. Like, damn it, man.
Or in the finale when they have that weird robot of Kier, and they're like the robot's talking shit to him. Well, first he goes, oh, well, I forgot what he says. He says something along the lines. He goes, yeah, because this Kier is 4 inches shorter than the original one. And the robot just like stops, looks at him, and basically is like, okay, Seth.
Yeah.
Like whenever they want to talk shit to him, they don't call him Milchek. They just call him Seth.
Seth. Also, going back to Helena being Heliar within the first 4 episodes, I kind of put it together by episode 2. I thought I was the smartest person in the room. And by room, I mean my living room. And I'm the only person that's watching. Because I was like, ooh, I figured it out. Yeah, this makes sense. That's Helena. That's not Heliar, all that stuff. And then when the reveal was in episode 4, when they reveals like, it's her, it's not Heliar, I was like, oh, they revealed in episode 4? I guess I'm not as smart as I thought I was, because I thought that was going to be like a thing in the like toward the end of the season, but they're like, we're going to put a stop to this to episode 4. But then it offered an interesting dynamic come the next few episodes where like Heliar was like, you couldn't tell that was me, like that wasn't me. And then they have to like rekindle their relationship with Helena kind of infringing on that a little bit for whatever reasons she had personally.
I kind of, yeah, I liked it though. I didn't notice it until actually somebody pointed it out to me. They go, oh, I think that Heliar is Helena Egan. Like, I think I said, oh, I could, and I saw it a little bit because there's that moment where where Helena is watching her walk out of the elevator and kiss him. And she's like really captivated by that moment.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, maybe now she's going to switch. But like, no, she had already switched. And then she got that moment with him. Like, she didn't know that she was going to get that. And so she's like reliving that moment that she had with him. And then it was like, well, I just want more of this.
Yeah. And probably something that she doesn't, obviously she doesn't have as her outie self. But she was also thinking that her innie selves were animals. And then they kind of see what was really going on from the inside. Aside from like seeing the cameras, but like experiencing it. And I don't think that changed her outie in any way, but definitely wanting a version of that for herself. And now Helly R feels infiltrated and then kind of put distrust into the whole MDR group. But what a badass way for Irving to kind of go out
Yeah.
and is like basically drowning her. It's like, give her back. And then she's like, do it, Seth. And, and then for him, that was his kind of exile in a way. So who knows if we'll ever get any Irving again. But I do feel like that once he left and then they kind of try to put him into the story again by giving him like some of Bert and Christopher Walken and that whole storyline, and then him kind of going away because Bert was supposed to assassinate him. I feel like that I didn't really, his story kind of went in a non-interesting way for me toward the back half of season 2, especially also I believe it was episode 8 where we focused on Harmony Cobell and like going back to her hometown and seeing what Lumen did to her hometown, and it kind of exploring her story a little bit. It was one of the shorter episodes, but I feel like that was kind of a long-winded way to say that she was the person that invented the severance process. Like, I think we could have gotten another way of seeing that. I just feel like that was kind of like a drag a little bit.
It could have been mixed into other episodes.
Yeah, like it didn't have to be
its whole thing. Like it didn't have
its
to be
own
the whole
thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. But
Because
no, go ahead.
Because I feel like it separated like the intensity that the other episodes were giving us, and then we had to take a dip down from that to tell the side story, and then go back to the main storyline.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, so when that episode happens, you almost come to like a full stop. Like, let's learn about Cobell's backstory and her shitty family, and this guy who she's like kind of with, or like has a thing for, or they've got like a weird fling thing that we don't ever get explained, or I don't know. Like, hopefully, I'm assuming maybe some of this shit will come back in season 3. But
but on top of that, like her grabbing that paperwork and seeing that served nothing for the finale. She was like, okay, now I'm gonna go back to Mark and figure out his life because they're calling me about their problems. So it's like it just offered literally nothing, with the exception of more information for the audience. But it didn't offer anything for the actual main story that's happening. So that was my only gripe with it.
Unless the stuff that she's grabbing is set up for season 3, and it's stuff that she was gonna take now, but she had to sidestep to help Mark, and like she had to stop what she was doing to help them achieve, what they needed to achieve. Like she decided to help them. So, but maybe what she was gonna do, like maybe the fallout with Gemma coming back and not having Mark there, she's gonna use Gemma to activate the next phase of her plan of what she was going to do before she met up with them.
Maybe. And I think that's going to be something really interesting. If there is like this any revolution that's happening in Lumen, kind of now focusing on Gemma and having her get a more prominent role, kind of representing the Audi world, as well as Mark's sister and Cobell, like that could be an interesting dynamic of like, well, my brother, my husband is stuck in there. Why is Lumen getting out there? And it could be grabbing a lot of attention, unwanted attention from the outside, from Lumen being like there's people like held hostage into Lumen, and she could probably be going to the medias right now saying that like as long as she's still not banging at that door hoping that Mark comes back, she's probably going to run outside, see, because this was all part of a heist and they were trying to get out of here. So I'm assuming either Cobell or his sister somewhere in the parking lot somewhere to go rescue them, and then from there maybe there could be like a revolution happening inside, a lot of news media on the outside. Like it could be that dynamic where we never see the Audi versions of these characters for the whole season. So there's some avenues that they could go down, but very curious to see that, and also the mysteries that they uncover in season 3, as well as some of the new stuff, new mysteries that they could involve. And it's hard to tell how long this series can kind of go on, but honestly, I really enjoyed season 2. It was great kind of just binging this back to back. And kind of just being invested into this story.
Yeah, I think I liked it more as a binge than I did, because I watched the first couple episodes week to week and I thought it was really fun. But to me, this season served better as a binge, as more than a week to week. But overall, I thought it was a great season of television, and I'm excited to whatever the next season comes.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have to wait 3 years for it, because it was 2022 to 2025. So hopefully either end of 26 or if it has to be 27, hopefully we'll get another season very quickly. But I'm hoping they got a little bit of a heads up while making season 2 that they were already working on season 3. So maybe we can get something as soon as next year, hopefully.
True.
But yeah, I honestly, even at the very least, like even if they decided to end it right here, I think this is a fine ending. If they did, I know it's not, but like I would have been an interesting ending.
There's so many unanswered questions, Matthew.
There is, but also as like, you know, in a way, like this kind of one of those like dark endings where like, yes, like 2 positive things happened at once. Like we saved Gemma, but the Audi version of Mark was not able to rekindle his love for his wife, yet his any version was able to get, you know, that love instead. So like I can see that being like a dark ending if they decide to end it here, but obviously there's more to come. So I think I'm also curious to see how far this story goes. Like is this like a 3-season thing? Do we get a season 4 out of this? Time will tell, but so far Severance is one of the most interesting shows that I've seen in a long time, and I'm kind of happy to stay in this world for another season.
Same.
But with that, that's our review on season 2. We're going to be going into our weekly binge of Daredevil Born Again, and let's talk about episode 7.
All right. Episode 7, Art for Art's Sake. So we're picking up, you know, Matt Murdock. He is back in the suit. You know, he saves Angela from Muse in episode 7. We kind of see the tension between his dual life as a lawyer and vigilante start to come apart. Like one of the first things we see is Matt and Heather in their apartment, and he's showering. He's getting all the blood off, and then he's getting out of the shower, and you know she starts questioning him, like, "Hey, why y'all fucked up?"
Well, hold on. Let's not breeze over. They had shower sex.
Yes,
like that is the thing that happened, which not something I want to.
Marvel TV shower sex. Yes,
exactly. That was the reason why I brought it up. It's like Marvel's going the hard TVMA on that.
That's fair. That's fair. But I guess we were kind of already there with the violence and
that's very true.
And the language. But yeah, this is kind of seems like a further step in that direction, where it's like Disney's shooting sex scenes.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Mickey Mouse is like, haha, get in the shower with her, huh? Sorry, I had to do it once. Yeah, Daredevil.
He's a player, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Daredevil got game.
Well, that's pretty apparent. That's known in the comics. He is kind of a playboy in the comics. I mean, he's a vigilante. I don't know. They all kind of are.
That's fair.
But yeah, you know, she's noticing his interest. She confronts him and about how he's being secretive, which is her being a therapist and especially like focusing on vigilantes. Like she doesn't pick up on that, but I guess, you know, she's thrown off by the fact that, you know, he's blind. So there's really like, oh, well, he can't be a superhero because he can't fucking see. But I mean,
I think by the end of this episode, I think she put 2 and 2 together. And I think she's,
so.
Yeah, I think she's smart enough to realize, like, okay, like Daredevil said my name, you're coming out with bruises. I just want you to be honest with me, and you're not.
Exactly. So then we see Matt's with his friend Cherry, who sees him at work and is all pissed off because he's like, what the fuck? You know, why are you in the Daredevil suit? He's like, he warns Matt that he's blowing up his life, reverting to his old habits. But, you know, he tells him, you know, Cherry used to rely on Daredevil during tough times. And it's just kind of like their relationship is kind of drifting apart, you know. And then we go back to Heather, and then she meets Bastion Cooper, who we saw in a previous episode at the book signing, who we obviously later find out that this is Muse.
Which I thought it was already known for the audience that character was Muse. I mean, obviously he was wearing a mask while he was Muse, but I always knew that going in that was Muse. And then now we see that he was probably that wasn't the first meeting that he had with Heather. So we just kind of happened to see one of the next meetings that he had with her, and then that ended up being a very violent and deadly one.
Yeah, I mean, he starts talking about, you know, they start going into his life, and he starts talking about his martial arts, and then we're getting this back and forth between Muse, and they're talking, basically like revealing that they know that Bastion Cooper is Muse, and how she was able to determine that. And then it's like, you know, his nose starts bleeding, and then puts it on the notepad, and then Heather's like, "Oh shit, I think you're Muse." Then he overpowers her, ties her up, and then the next thing you know, he's got his Muse persona on to make her the next masterpiece.
And then she didn't.
And then she didn't, because Daredevil comes in, they fight. They kind of have it out. Muse steps up, and then she shoots him, which in a very and I feel like in a very anticlimactic way. Like, she's freed, she grabs the gun, she shoots him, and then she kills him.
And then she passes out for the loss of blood back in the hospital. Fisk comes in there and is like, the task force did this. Daredevil was never here. It was the task force that saved the day. You're heroes now. And then pretty much the episode ended. Like, I feel like not a lot happened in this episode.
Yeah, I agree. Where like stuff happened, but it doesn't really happen. And then we get the subplot with Vanessa, where she meets the gangster who she's been talking about, and he's been very upset. Obviously, this is the guy who visited Fisk in his office and told him that he wasn't going to pay the money. And then, they have this back and forth, and she tells him, I don't remember if it was in this episode or last, it's like I don't speak on my husband's politics, or because I guess he's like, you're tired of it too. She's like, I don't pretend to like know what he's doing, or like I don't speak for him in that way. Or he asked her if she was bored or she's upset with the way things have been run, and she's basically like, to me she's still been very supportive. Every interaction that she's had has told me that she is not gonna like go against him. So when she gives him the information of the quote unquote betrayal, as you could see it, like it seemed very much set up. Like his boy was just waiting there in the dark in the perfect spot, gun out, silencer out, and then he's perfectly positioned to be right in front of the door with his head turned, his back towards the door. Which, like, if you're somebody who's like known to be attacked all the time, that's rule 101. Don't have your back.
You're not gonna do that.
Why would you have your back to the door? So unless you have a shooter who's trained on the door and you feel comfortable sitting wherever the fuck you want, which first of all, he's the mayor, and he's Kingpin, so of course he's gonna have his right hand man like ready to go. So he walks in and he shoots him, but he doesn't even skip a beat. He doesn't look surprised to who it is. Like, so I don't see any other way to see it as she set him up. She basically told him, like, you need to pay the money, and when he didn't, and he decided to go this route, like, well, you're already digging your own grave, so let me help you get the shovel. And to me, that was my interpretation of that scene.
Yeah, I never saw that it was Vanessa going against Fisk. It was just all part of the plan that, like, okay, you don't want to pay? Yeah, then go here. Try to kill him. Good luck. Here's the address. And then, as soon as he walks in, gets shot in the head, and then Fisk goes, "Thanks, Buck." And then he's like, "Thanks for coming out of the shadows and saving my life." But I know that was happening, so I'm just gonna continue eating my big old pasta.
It's like every time he does something evil, he just wants to sit there and eat.
Yeah. But I think in a way that's
when he's talking to Adam in a couple episodes before, and he's like, "This," he's like, "It's Mayor Fist to you." Continues to eat.
I think that's also in a way like kind of commenting on the fact that, like, at the beginning of the season, Matt Murdock and that conversation he had with Wilson Fisk is like, your lightest stepper, your step is lighter. Sounds like you lost a lot of weight. And I feel like this him eating all the time, kind of inadvertently bulking up, maybe gaining back that weight, is just going back to like the Kingpin classic look of him just getting just bigger. Like maybe he was away from Kingpin, and then obviously he was able to slim up and have a different life for himself in a way. Maybe actually wanting to be mayor, but then now he's, again, very similar to Matt Murdock and Daredevil, slowly going back to his old ways, carving up, being the big guy. And like at the very end too, when he's trying to smile for the press after, like, here's the mass killer and the sign, and you just see him trying to smile, and it looks awkward as hell. Like he can't put up a smile at all. Vincent D'Onofrio does a fantastic job playing Wilson Fisk and Kingpin, but like, yeah, I feel like this episode in a way just felt like we're checking boxes. And
Yeah.
sadly, it came to what appears to be Muse's end, even though he was kind of used poorly of just being like this background villain that we cut to every few minutes in an episode of like, yeah, he killed another person and he built up another mural. Yep, next episode kills another person, another mural goes up, and then we finally confront him and he's dead.
Yeah, I feel like he was very underused. I mean, this episode gives us his demise where he just kind of like his death is just kind of he just ends, and it's Heather who ends up killing him. You know, Matt's isolating himself from all his friends, and like
Yeah.
the few people who he has left, he's isolating himself. We see Fist take on more of that dual role, or like
Mhm.
you know, obviously we already know for a fact, but we just see more. We see more Kingpin coming out of the mayor as opposed to more mayor coming out of the Kingpin. That makes sense. And
Yeah.
then
What I have read as well, that the last two episodes, which we're going into now, was part of like the restructure of this series. So like very similar to episode one, how it was basically completely new. It was never part of the original plan. The last two episodes will be something completely new that wasn't part of the original plan. So I wonder where kind of Muse's storyline fit into this, and maybe Muse had a bigger role, but because of the new version of this show, they had to cut him short to leave room for where we want the season to end going into season two.
yeah, I just wish they wouldn't have killed him or like
Yeah.
give him because whenever I read online, I haven't read any of his storylines in the comics, but it was suggested that he's got some sort of superhuman abilities. But like she just killed him. She shot him, he's dead. No more Muse. But like they made him
Do you
see
think he's alive?
I hope so. I hope that he's still alive and that maybe or they're gonna bring him back to life and he has like this superhero ending, but then it makes this whole storyline anticlimactic. I mean, it already kind of ended. Like they gave us this massive setup, and it was like I feel like it didn't pay off in the way that I had hoped. I guess is what I think.
Yeah, which I feel like we got a better payoff for Matt Murdock finally becoming Daredevil at the end of episode 6, only for like, the reason why he went back into suit was because of Muse in a way. And then now that reasoning, it doesn't take us to the end of the episode or end of the season. It just takes us to the next episode. So now the question is, and where I'm going into these last two episodes are like, where does Kingpin fit into this going into season 2? We know that the Punisher's coming back, so where does he fit into this going into the end of season 2? Is Karen coming back? Is Foggy really dead? Which I believe he is, because that was the whole catalyst of the premiere. But some people believe that he's not dead. So like, is this the restructure, this new version of what you show wanted? Like, is this going to be highlighted within these next two episodes to really push forward some sort of ending to the season, which in a way kind of feels like you've already wrapped up?
Yeah, it does kind
So
of feel over already. And like unless there's gonna be a big blowout between Kingpin and him, which I kind of hope that there is.
mhm.
Like or what is gonna be the end? He takes down the task force, and then next season is him to take down Kingpin because he's got to deal with the task force too. So
Yeah, I feel like the only thing that's like left that's lingering that they haven't that they the things that they already introduced was the murder of Hector Ayala. So like we know that it was basically a Punisher copycat, and it could be those repercussions could be in the next two episodes, or in a version of which I really don't think will be good storytelling wise. They introduce something completely new, and that takes us into the end of the season as well as the beginning of season 2.
and we were
Um,
promised Punisher is coming back. So is he just gonna come back and help out during the finale or
yeah, which
like
seems cheap.
yeah, yeah. So I liked most of the season so far. I'm very skeptical on how the season is going to wrap up.
Agreed. I feel like this was the weaker of the episodes so far that we've seen
And
in
that's
this throughout the
considering,
season.
and I agree with you, and that's including the bottleneck episode, which I enjoyed. I thought it was great, and I actually think it served to his build up as character of Daredevil. So, like, to me, it doesn't have an essential purpose in the main, as far as the main arc, but I feel like as a subplot, it works in developing the Matt Murdock's character as a person. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like I got a deeper understanding into why he's making his decisions based off his actions in that episode.
100% agree. 100% agree with that. I am curious to see. Obviously, we're moving away from, but like we're going into the further of Daredevil. So I guess a lot of the lawyer stuff is kind of on the back burner now. That's what it feels like too. Like
Yeah.
we're not going back into the courtroom. Also, there is one thing that they could bring back, and that could be Bullseye. He is he is sentenced to life in prison. If for any reason he gets out of jail, maybe for whatever reason, that could be a reason to something that was introduced in the beginning of the season that can come back at the end of the season of Bullseye's on the loose again.
And then he feels necessary to go after him because of his conversation with the Punisher, and then maybe that's a reason to have the Punisher involved. As for how,
Yeah.
Okay,
But
maybe.
but I don't 100% like that either, because we only saw him in the beginning of the season. So for him to just bring him back at the end just feels kind of out of place when we weren't really going back to him throughout the season.
That's fair. So do you feel like it's unnecessary to bring him back at all?
No, but again, with anything, just do it where it makes sense.
I can agree
And
with that.
sometimes it doesn't happen organically. So like I expect to see Punisher and Karen and like maybe a confrontation with Fisk and Daredevil, but Fisk is mayor now, so he could maybe pardon him to get out of jail. Who knows?
Ooh, good. Oh, good call. I didn't even think about that. That's good.
So like who knows? And also we see that Fisk's rage is building toward Matt Murdock returning as Daredevil. So maybe him has his power as mayor just wanting to kill him, and he's willing to do whatever he needs to get rid of Daredevil. And what do? You take Bullseye out of prison to finish the job, in addition to maybe his task force, which we know that Bullseye has a history with the FBI, like because he worked with the FBI. So like that could be all part of it. And I think in a way that could maybe make more sense going into the finale, and then maybe the Punisher coming in and helping out. Who knows? But I just want them to wrap up nicely in this end of the season, because Marvel has a history of giving us good stories within its season, but then having a weak finale. So a lot to look into within these last 2 episodes for sure.
For sure. Yeah, I'm excited to see how it's going to end, and hopeful that they end it in a good way.
Agreed. So there you go. That's our take on Daredevil episode 7. And now we're going to be diving into our spoiler review of the week, which is our foreign film of the month, The Shadow Strays, a 2024 Indonesian film. Ernesto, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on the movie.
What did you say, Matt? Did you? It
sounds did I say anything right?
I think you did. I was just fucking with you, but it sounded like you said Shadow Strays. I was like, I'm sorry.
I could say it again. And hold on. We'll start over. And now we're going to be moving over to our spoiler review of our foreign film of the month, which is The Shadow Strays, the 2024 Indonesian film. Ernesto, God damn it.
So Matt, you just sit down. I'm going to take it from here. You just take a break. So we kind of discussed it a little bit in the beginning, but this movie had a very quick turnaround. So it was announced in early 2024. It wrapped production in mid 2024 and was set to stream on Netflix in October, which it premiered October 17th. And I think given that information and given the complexity of some of these fight scenes that it portrayed, that to me is extremely impressive. I think what they were able to churn out in a short amount of time was very impressive. Now overall, the film was fine. I think it was decent. Yeah. It's a little on the long side. I feel like some of the exposition in the beginning could have been probably tapered down. Like this movie could have easily been 2 hours. You can cut out the whole first mission and just start with her having it being put on the sidelines, and that would have cut the whole first 20 minutes of the film. But it does give you a little bit of setup for some of the background characters, but that could have been weaved in throughout the story without. I loved most of the fight scenes. I thought they were really well done. Some of the ones that stuck out to me was with the one with the guy with the mask, the governor's son. I mean, at the very end where he's got the white suit on and they're fighting in that warehouse, and it's just like it's just like blow after blow when she throws him on top of the car and he lights on fire and the mask starts melting to his face. And then like when she cracks that fucking bat over his head, and it's a callback to when he has her tied up and how he says he just wants to hear like the sweet sound of the bat cracking over her head. And then she's like, what's that? And then that sound, he's like, oh, she's like, the sound is the sweet sound of your death. After she slices his throat, lets him bleed out a little bit, and then jams the baseball bat in his mouth, pinning him to the car. It's a little like, and in the whole movie, all the violence is like very like over the top John Wick style.
Yeah.
But it was good. I mean, the one with Troika, the big guy from the shadow one of the shadows, like it's like their main big, he's like a big muscular strong guy of their small petiteness. He's like the opposite of them, but he's one of them. He's like the strong version of them. I thought that was really cool. I mean, she just goes fucking crazy on him, starts stabbing him in the chest, and it's just like that kind of that back and forth. And to me, the one that was the most iconic was when she's fighting the instructor and they have the knives out and she cuts her fingers off. Like she's grabbing the knife and the girl goes, ah, I was like, oh my gosh, she cut her fingers off.
And then like it's what's really interesting is that especially toward the end of that, them going against each other was like the resilience they both had, and like they weren't willing to die. Like there is like so much adrenaline in both of them that like they're just fighting for survival. At least she is anyway. And yeah, it was literally just nonstop.
Yeah, and I like, for me, the standout of this film is the fight choreography. I mean, I love the club scene where like she's fighting the guy, and I would even say the cinematography, because it's just kind of tied together during those fight scenes. Like when she's fighting the guy and she grabs him and they jump. I think the way that they shot her coming out of that window and landing on the first floor from the second story, I just thought it was really cool. Just that kind of that transition, the way they shot it and just how they constructed it, I thought it was just really, the fight scenes were very, very entertaining. So even though this movie's 2.5 hours long, whenever there was like these long, and I like the word that the choreography, the meticulous design fight scenes, because they did feel very meticulous, because it's like it's martial arts with these improvised weapons, even though like the shooting was like super exaggerated, like a couple of shots to the head and like somebody's half of their fucking face is gone. Like, okay, like you guys have the most powerful bullets in the world. Like, okay, we get it. That's fine.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it like when you're going into this movie, I'm not expecting great storytelling. Obviously, when you're looking at the trailer, the thing that is the standout is the fight scenes, and you're kind of already going into this movie expecting some great fight scenes, and we definitely got that. I just do wish, the other part of me, I wish we got a solid story out of it. It was pretty cut and dry. There wasn't really investment going into most of these fight scenes. It's just kind of like how you're just watching it for the pure entertainment value, and how are they going to just basically destroy this person. And just kind of seeing the inventive ways to do each individual fight and how crazy the next one can be against the next. And that's pretty much what this whole movie is for me. I just wish there was a more of a story to hold on to, specifically with its long runtime. Like I would have loved to get more world building on this shadow corporation, and we didn't really get to do that. And the only reason why she's on this rampage is because they didn't give her next assignment. But then why are they against her? Because she went rogue? What, for helping this person?
Yes.
It's like, I wish there were just more things to hold on to, because it was just like, oh, we have to stop her from trying to help this child. Why is she going to these lengths to save him? I don't know, because she's bored and you didn't give her something to do? It's like, that's what we're going off of?
I'll even say this. So you keep the runtime, but instead in the beginning, you get this exposition of their last mission. You give us the initial understanding of who the shadows are, and kind of give us an overview of their organization, because then it would make sense in the end. Like we get because first of all, the credits roll, and then we get this Avenger style post credit scene where she's burying everybody, and all of a sudden, who is it? 14 comes out, and it's like this slapsticky assassin with like an eye patch, and she's got like gun gadgets coming out of her arms. And then we get this guy on a motorcycle with this comically long pistol pointing at her, and he's talking through the helmet. And then we get this reveal, like, of we're supposed to know who this fucking guy is. Like, oh, you're my instructor's instructor. I forgot what the fuck she said, but she was like it made it seem like it's this big reveal of who this person is. I don't remember who this guy. I don't know who that guy is. I don't like. Did we ever see him before? Fuck if I know. I don't know.
So to be fair, maybe in certain circles, he is a very famous martial arts actor. So
Maybe.
he was in the raid, and I believe he's also part of he's a very popular martial arts actor, and he was also he had a small bit in Star Wars: The Force Awakens because of his popularity. And but mainly I first got introduced to him to The Raid, which was a fantastic movie.
So to me, that's interesting, because then that gives me an idea of how other countries look at our movies when we do that shit.
Yes.
It's like, oh, they're showing us this character, but who the fuck is this person? Like, I don't know who this person is. Like, like, in relation to the story, makes no sense. But in relation to real life, of somebody being added to the franchise as like a big name, okay, that makes way more sense.
Yeah.
So like, you see the person is like, oh shit, the next Shadow Strays 2 is gonna have this guy, and they're definitely setting up a lot. There's a lot of world building in the very end where she's on the run, and it's basically her against the shadows. And this movie was like, almost seems like a setup of understanding how much of a badass assassin she is, and like that point that I just made, they kind of sprinkled throughout the movie, like understanding who the shadows are and like who trained her and why they're significant. We got brief glimpses of her past life, of when she gets knocked out, of like her mom and who her real name is and all that shit. And then like she goes against the instructors, like the main agents, like, agent, you're on thin ice. Don't hesitate. I mean, okay, who are you? Why are you important? And you're just a guy in a suit. Like, we can fucking, and let's not forget that they can dodge bullets like it's the Matrix. Like, they just have this quick move that they go left and right, and they can dodge all bullets that come their way. Which I'm fine.
Yeah,
that plays to the slapstick. It's like the violence is very like slapsticky, like, you know, not obviously non-realistic whatsoever. I mean, it's fine. Would I watch the second one? Probably not. But I did. And there are a lot of things about this movie that I enjoyed. I really enjoyed the fight choreography. Like, to me, those sequences I think were great. They're like some of the best I've seen. Like, obviously not like better than like John Wick, but I think it's at least in the conversation. It's in the neighborhood. It's there. To me, it's there. The story just could have been stronger.
Yeah, and so had the actor that was at the end, his name is, I'm probably going to ruin it, Yayan Yorhan, and he became just reiterating it, he is from Indonesia. So the fact that he was in this movie, probably for the people, the culture over there probably know exactly who he is. So for them, it's like a big reveal. It's like, oh shit, he's going to be in the next movie. But yeah, as far as an American audience would be concerned, like, The Raid is probably one of his most popular movies. And I remember watching The Raid in theaters because I was reading how insane the fight choreography was for this movie, and the story was just, we need to get to the top floor. That was the story. Like, I forgot exactly all the inner workings of it, but we need to get to the top floor. So you literally start from the bottom, and then just a massacre going from the bottom up. And like, we just had to get up there. And so like, he was part of that, as well as another famous actor as well, because of this movie. But then he had a small role in the Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and then he probably had another big stunt from John Wick Chapter 3. He was in that movie as well and featured in that movie. And then now he did a lot of string of other movies from other foreign films. And then now I think his latest American movie, he was in Boy Kills World, which is another high action octane film. So Yeah, so if you're there and you see him, he was probably a big deal to get like a reveal at the end of the movie. But aside from that, like even the whole scene that followed just felt cheesy. I
Yeah.
agree. Like the whole bit doesn't really make any sense. I wish the story would have been less world building to make all of this kind of more entertaining. Like if it was just her rebelling and like I do agree with you. Having an understanding of the world of the Shadow clan and then her going about this mission to go rogue or for another motive because we don't really have a motive of aside from she just wants to make sure this boy's protected. That is and like this was my neighbor and they killed his mom and so that was it. Like she felt obligated to save this person who also happens to be tied up to a larger thing that everyone else is involved in, but like there was no connection on why the shadows were even involved with any of this. This just felt for her like the right thing to do or personal. And so like yeah, how we got to these individual fight scenes didn't really care, but watching it like once the story part was over, then you're like, all right, let's just sit back and relax and enjoy the ride.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what I felt like just watching this whole thing. And like, yeah, a lot of the stuff was pretty inventive and kind of watching how crazy the next fight scene can go. I really like the opening. The opening was like felt like it was subtle in a way, but just like them on their next mission. And I just felt like because we started there and then it was like just hold on to the next mission and then she was waiting a couple of days and wasn't getting anything. It's just weird that we started with like the shadows and then we really didn't go to them until the very end.
Yeah,
Like
we have one little sprinkle in where the instructor we go to her, we meet back with her when she goes to her mission to Cambodia. And she's
Right.
there's an aspect they didn't explore there because she wanted to, he tells her don't hesitate, but like, okay, why are they going against the shadows? Why are you killing ex shadows? Like
Right.
who the fuck do you work for? Who's right? Like you gave us all this shit and then like didn't explain it at all. Even if you're trying to set it up for the next film, like if another Shadow Strays doesn't happening, there's a lot of unanswered questions from the first film that should have been answered in the first one.
But to your point, they introduced this whole other plot line of them going after other shadows. But then don't worry about that plot line. We still have this woman still taking down a whole organization on her own single-handedly because of this child that it was her neighbor. But then once he died, which honestly was probably the most surprising part of the story.
Yeah.
I didn't expect they were going to kill him off. And then she just goes unhinged and not only take down the organization, but for some reason the shadow organization as well, for whatever reason. And that's the part that's like, but why? Like, why are they going after her? It's like, once the organization was gone, why then try to kill her as well? And she's not an ex shadow; she's currently a current shadow. So like, why? I think at the end of the day, she was the only person that lived.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone else died.
Yeah, I mean, besides the shadows who are gonna go after her now, like everybody else in the organization.
Yeah, it was just again at the end of the day it was an entertaining action movie that probably there was a lot of things I didn't see in other movies, like the way that they decided to stylize and the extreme violence of this film.
Yeah.
But I feel like just toward the end, like I just wish there was just something more to hold on to get us into the next fight scene.
I with you 100%. So it's 2.5 hours and it was just a very surface level movie with some like really great action choreography.
Yeah, and then it just comes down to like imagine if there was a solid story to go behind all that action. Like I am curious to see what his next movie is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I was kind of like at this point I want to see the trailer for your next movie. I'm not sure if I'll watch it, and then also hold my reserve if it's a Shadow Strays 2.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I wasn't a big fan of the first John Wick movie, but once they started building the lore around John Wick, then going into John Wick 2 and 3, I was much more excited to see how this story plays out. So maybe this is just a rocky start to an interesting franchise with this filmmaker.
And you know what? I talk shit, but I think if they were to drop a Shadow Strays 2, I might watch it. I might actually. I say that I wouldn't, but now like the more I think about it, like it was surface level and like the story's not there, but the action choreography was interesting enough that I'd be willing to watch further exploration of, even if it's just that. Even if I were to just watch it just for that, I would at least entertain the idea of watching it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I again, I think this comes down to a trailer. Did this have any interest of you watching one of his first movies, The Night, or the one in 2018?
If he's got similar action choreography in that other film, then yeah, I'd be interested to check it out.
Okay, yeah, I think this one just got a little bit more attention than the other one. But yeah, it's just interesting to see how he kind of kicks off with this potential franchise could be. I'm not sure. Did they ever announce that there's a sequel on the way? Can we look that up real quick? Because they definitely set up for one, and Netflix is known for, giving us sequels to their movies, and the fact that his first movie, it comes, The Night Comes for Us. The fact that was his first movie, also with Netflix. It seems like that him and Netflix have a good working relationship, that another one of his movies will be on the way.
All right, so this is according to Grok, and it's got I guess there's a lot of references here. As of April 5th, 2025, which is when we're doing this recording, there's exciting news for fans that Shadow Strays, a sequel, is indeed in development. Director Timo Tjahjanto confirmed plans for Shadow Strays 2 in early March of 2025 via a post.
Just last year.
Yeah.
Or just last month, sorry.
Just last month via a post on X/Twitter stating Shadows will return alongside a teaser poster. While Netflix hasn't officially greenlit the project yet, his announcement and the first film's strong performance, boasting a 91% Rotten Tomato score and topping Netflix's charts in multiple regions, should suggest a promising prospect. The director has shared that he has designed a story as a two-parter eager to expand the violent, mysterious world of the Shadows organization. In interviews following the original's October 17, 2024 release, he hinted at exploring the group's origins and 13's next steps after her bloody rebellion. However, no specific release date has been set, and details like cast returns or plot specifics remain under wraps. Given the film's first rapid production timeline, announced in late 2023, released in 2024, a sequel could potentially arrive as 26 if momentum continues. So it's just a waiting game. So I guess it's loosely announced, the director confirmed, but no official announcement from Netflix themselves. But I don't see why not. And then that assessment is true. I mean, we were looking, and that was the whole reason why we even entertained watching this movie, because of the positive. It just got a lot of positive feedback when it initially released.
Yeah, and obviously, like, if he's already greenlit for a second season, if he already feels like a second film is on the way, obviously this movie set it up for it, and he designed this story to be a two-parter. That has me more interested in the sequel, because that means we up the ante a little bit from the first movie, as well as expanding on what we wanted, more story building from this world.
So I read that as the next two installations as a two-parter, but I think it's what you mean. So like ending on a trilogy or ending on the two. But if these two go just as good, they're gonna want to go for the three.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see.
I guess I'm invested.
I'm invested. Like as much as I talk shit, I would 100 I would put this on in the background. Just as like a good action movie to have on in the background. It's got some pretty kick-ass fight scenes. Like you have to appreciate like just how well they were done.
Oh, for sure.
They're just they're really good, regardless of the storyline. So, all right.
So where does this fare if you feel like John Wick is like something that we refer to as like peak of action and like craziness that happens in a movie that's also entertaining and has a solid story behind it? Where does this fare around that?
I'm gonna say it's right up there. It's very close. Like I think the stories are a little bit stronger, and a lot of that I think has to do with the amount of lore that's already out there for John Wick. So given the lore, if they're able to like fix some of the issues I had with the first movie, then it'll, as a complete cohesive story, it'll sit better, as opposed to Like I just feel like there's just so many unanswered questions from the plot of the first one.
All right. So with that, final thoughts and your 5-star rating.
Final thoughts. I mean, great action choreography, meticulous fight scenes. It's really well done. The storyline obviously could have been a lot stronger, but overall it was fine. So I think given that, I'm gonna give it 4 stars.
Oh, okay. All right. I think I'm giving it a 3.5 for me, mainly because I just wanted the story to be stronger, and everything on this movie has contingent on the fact of its really impressive and entertaining fight choreography. Like
I'll
that's
give you
what
that.
got me through this movie and its long run time. And I wish the story just could have been a little bit stronger. But the movie that we got, like, yes, the story could have been stronger, but the action is just so damn fun to watch
Yeah.
that it kind of just I'm forgiving it a little bit. But you also try to implement so many different storylines in here where I feel like as of right now, it just felt unnecessary, or this is why I'm giving it the 3.5. Now, going into the sequel, if all of those setups in the first movie had good payoffs in the sequel, then we could be seeing this first movie very differently when watching the sequel.
Very true. Very true.
But there you go. That's our spoiler review of The Shadow Strays, as well as our foreign film of the month. And that is all the show we have for you guys this week. If you want more from us, you can always follow us on our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, our X and Letterboxd page at Box Office Binger, and our Threads and Instagram page at Box Office_Bingers. The fun doesn't stop here. It continues on all of our social media channels. So be sure to give each one of those a follow, and we will greatly appreciate it. And you can see what other things we've been doing as well as just talking about movies.
Yeah.
Ernesto, tell our lovely listeners what they can look forward to next week.
So next week's episode, we are going to be reviewing Rami Malek's new movie, The Amateur, kind of like an action, kind of staying in that action thriller vein. Lawrence Fishburne's in this one. I'm excited. We got a next set of reviews. I'm really quite excited for the next set of movies we're reviewing.
Yeah,
kind of all staying in that action thriller in that same kind of vein. We got The Amateur we're reviewing. We're going to be talking about The Accountant 2, Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler's new movie, The Sinners, which is more of like a vampire but still kind of actiony. Yeah,
I feel like it'd be like maybe like a horror mystery type of deal.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
Also, early reviews for that movie is all high praise. Like best movie so far, the best movie of 2025. So I'm very excited.
I mean, anything Ryan Coogler we're obviously down for, and I'm very excited to see an original story from Ryan Coogler, him outside of the Marvel train with Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So I'm kind of happy to see him kind of step away a little bit to give himself and his creative juices flowing outside the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
So yeah, having him do this movie, I'm super excited for it. The Amateur is one of those movies that completely sold me on the trailer. This was a well-made trailer that I was like, I need to see this movie in the theaters because this looks really good.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So I'm hoping that this trailer is as good as the movie, and this feels like an original film as well. So we're all for that. And yeah, I'm excited for the next lineup we have for the rest of the month for the next reviews we have lined up. And yeah, I'm hoping that The Amateur lives up to the trailer because this movie looks like it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we like to thank each and every one of you for listening to us just talk about movies. We really do appreciate it. Come back next week for more movie fun. You're not going to regret it. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
Oh, and I've been Ernesto Santos. See ya.